Okay, cool. I'm finally live. Just gonna post this stuff on my Twitter, and I'm obviously not at my desk today. I'm on my bed just because I want to keep the noise down a bit in my house. Um, but yeah, gonna get into everything. If you're watching later, cheers for watching. Just gonna try and put this out on my Twitter quick. There we go. It's just popped up. But yeah, sorry that it is later than I said it would be. Just had some stuff I need to do, but it's all good now. So let's just stick this on my Twitter and we'll get started. Yeah, I hope everyone is good, and stick around if you're watching this tomorrow or later, because I'll spill the beans on my juicy Twitter fight. So come and join my live stream now. Alright, there we go. So yeah, while I'm on Twitter, let me just look up what I said to Sargon of Akkad. Basically, he got his Twitter banned again. He has like another Twitter, but someone was saying to him, "Oh, I don't like your politics, but well done on your weight loss." And I was thinking, what the fuck? Why are you commenting? And it was like a leftist YouTuber that I follow, and I was like, why the fuck are you congratulating someone like that on his weight loss? I was like, he's verging on being a Holocaust denier, and then he quote tweeted me saying, "How can you be on the verge of being a Holocaust denier?" And then I got all these people, including that little freak Sinatra Says, who made that video on me. All these people coming in and saying like, "Oh, how can you be on the verge of Holocaust now?" Well, I'll tell you how you can be, and I'll get it up, what he actually said and why he is on the verge of Holocaust denial. Because he had a debate with Kevin Logan, who's my good pal on Twitter and online. And basically, he was telling Kevin that 6 million Jews didn't die in the Holocaust, it was 6 million people overall, which Kevin corrected him and was like, that's not true, it was 6 million Jews specifically, and you're just bullshitting. And I think personally that's a form of Holocaust denial, because for one, who even argues about how many Jews died in the Holocaust? Holocaust deniers obviously do. Anyway, so he was saying all that shit, and obviously I said that you're verging on Holocaust denial if you start getting all funny about the numbers. And for example, if you say 6 million total, right? Everyone knows the Nazis killed like millions of socialists, for example, and killed hundreds of thousands of, or millions of Slavs as well, and killed hundreds of thousands of gypsies, gay people, disabled people, all that stuff. So if you start saying 6 million Jews didn't die in the Holocaust, it was, 6 million overall, when you take into account all these other factors, you could say, for example, well, 6 million Jews didn't die in the Holocaust, 1 million Jews did. And then he says other stuff like Jews should get over the Holocaust. And then everyone is trying to jump down my throat on Twitter saying, "Oh, you're such an idiot, man. How can you say he's a Holocaust denier? That means he thinks the Holocaust doesn't exist." And I think you're verging on Holocaust denial if you start getting funny about the numbers. So I'm trying to find my tweets, because his Twitter actually got banned like like 2 days after he was saying this shit to me. I muted all my mentions because I just got loads of right wing stupid idiots just in my mentions giving me loads of shit about it. So I'm gonna try and find it. Oh, here we go. Um, all right, so I called Sinatra said a cunt because he's telling me to get a job. I don't know how that's got anything to do with it. Um, so I point out the facts of him saying all this shit, and then the tweet's gone now because his Twitter is deleted. So I basically said, so that's not just said was like, it's a stretch what you're trying to say. So I quoted him saying about the Holocaust stuff, that it wasn't 6 million Jews, and I said Palling, and because of Sargon of a friend, because Charles said, because Sargon of Akkad has loads of friends who are Holocaust deniers. I said, palling around with Holocaust deniers and then saying shit like, Jewish people need to get over the Holocaust and that he doesn't give a shit about the Holocaust. And I said, that's why you're verging on Holocaust denial. And I don't know how that doesn't make sense to people. Anyway, that was a stupid fight. So then, yeah, they're all trying to dunk on me on Twitter, but because I'm hard, I don't basically give one shit. Alright, so I get to the comments now. But that's my little fight, and they're just stupid. And the person who was saying, oh, congratulations, Sargon, for your weight loss was this, what's her name? This Australian YouTuber with 10k subs. I forgot exactly what her name is. Well, I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It's like saying to Donald Trump, well done on your weight loss. I do not give one shit if Donald Trump has lost weight. He's an evil piece of shit. Sargon of Akkad might not be evil, but he's a really bad person. Depends on your definition of evil, I guess. So, anyway, annoying. Hi, Evan. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Uzai. Sorry, I always get your name wrong. Hi, Tony. Max saying, what did you and Hard Argon have a fight about? Yeah, I just explained it. Sargon of Akkad was a friend of mine. I really doubt that, Joel. Has Carl called Corbyn an anti-Semite before? Well, I'm guessing he has. Pretty much everyone like that has. But they don't see the hypocrisy. It's like Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying, like AOC is an anti-Semite and stuff. Obviously, that's crazy talk, but coming from someone who is an anti-Semite like Trump and is in a party full of anti-Semites, it's mental that he doesn't see the hypocrisy, but they never do. It's all about having something to beat people over the head with, isn't it? So, hi, Red Leader, thanks for joining. Let's call him his real name, Carl. Yeah, Carl Benjamin, who on his own destroyed UKIP. I would say Sargon is evil. He laughed at children crying in camps. Yeah, I guess he could be evil, and he definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Holocaust denier. But I think if you're arguing that not 6 million Jews in the Holocaust died, it was a different number, and then saying get over the Holocaust and you don't give a shit that Jews care about it anymore, I totally think that guy cares about the Holocaust. He's not just trying to really downplay it. Do you know what I mean? If there was like legit loads of evidence or something, because this debate has already gone on. They have that whole what's that film? It's like the guy who plays not Worm Tongue. The guy who plays that rat in Harry Potter who cuts his hand off for Voldemort. It's like a film about in the 60s. This British anti-Semite published a book saying the Holocaust has been like really exaggerated. So it's like textbook Holocaust denial. So I don't understand why these right wingers don't understand it. But like, lol, he knows the Holocaust happened. You're such an idiot. I swear the right wing's logic is so basic. It's like the stuff with Piers Morgan always reminds me of this. It's like because he says something like, "Oh, I identify as like I don't know, a 30-year-old man," and they're like, "Haha, good one, you got them." It's like just because you say something similar doesn't mean it makes any sense. Like it's not backed by any science or anything when you talk about trans stuff. It's just ridiculous logic. But they think because it's so simple and it makes sense to like a simple person, they think it's the right answer. Um, yeah, you make a good point, Mac. Imagine if Corbyn said Jews should get over the Holocaust. Would Cole be alright with that? Yeah, of course they wouldn't. None of these Holocaust deniers would be alright with that because they just like using it to bash people on the left. So, Wormtail. No, Wormtail's from Harry Potter, isn't he? Is it Wormtongue? No, Wormtail's from Lord of the Rings, isn't he? So, Scabbers, yeah, the rat, but what's the guy's name? Evan said, you should go to the NATO protest soon, Cav. Have you been to any recently? Sucks about Extinction Rebellion, but they're banned, and any protest video can be shut down. Yeah, that stuff with the police is super scary. Like all the shutdowns and like they can arrest people. Where is there a NATO protest happening? But just I'm not really big on protests, to be honest. I went down to the Trump one in London, but not to actually protest, just to I did that interview with people, didn't I? So that's why I went there. But in terms of actually protesting, I don't really fancy it, to be honest, because there's not. Not there's not too many things that can make me outraged. I just feel a bit hypocritical protesting some stuff and not others. Peter Pettigrew. Okay, thanks, Olivia. That's the guy. Does Piers Morgan have a fan base? I wouldn't say it has a fan base, but it has a stupid thing. It's like, I don't like Piers Morgan, but he's spot on here. And just because he says like one thing that makes sense, like every year he talks about, America should have better gun laws, and everyone's like, what a rational guy. But he's a fucking idiot, and obviously he likes Donald Trump, so that shows how, unintelligent he is. But the thing with Piers Morgan is, I think he knows this is all just an act. I don't think he's serious about most of it. I think he's like a troll, but he's just a bit better at it because I think everyone thinks he's being serious, and I don't think he's being serious. Or he at least knows what he's doing. It's like part of his fucking brand. You said there weren't casinos in London. When did I say that? My brother's been to one, and that was months ago, so I wouldn't have said that. I don't think I would have said that. Logan saying, damn, you actually fought on Twitter with a failed political candidate. Nice. Yeah. I didn't even mean to. I was talking to someone else. I don't even think he was tagged. Direct action, resistance, protesting. I'd be more up for doing civil disobedience. But I'm still not super up for it. I don't know why. I should try to become a blackjack dealer. Why would I become a blackjack dealer? That'd be so boring. Charles said Sargon was confronted by a black woman on his racism, and he responded that he had a black grandfather. Alright, that's great. It's basically just an extension of I'm not racist, I have a black friend. Of course, you can have a black husband or wife and be racist. That doesn't mean anything. And you can also be racist to different people. It doesn't mean, if you had a black grandfather, it doesn't mean you can't be racist to Arabs. So it's a bit of, ridiculous logic. Also, everyone, I finally hit 7k, but I don't expect to stay there because I always lose subs when I live stream. But I want to do something for the 7k special. But I'm going to wait until I got a bit of a cushion, like maybe another 50 subs, because I don't want to go down below 7k if I make a 50k special. But yeah, getting to 7k was such a grind. Like, I think I hit 6k at the end of May, and now it's near the end of October. So it took so long. Not that I really mind, because I'm still growing, but it's just, I've seen other people, like, who were lower than me maybe like a month ago, who are now really higher than me. Like, I saw one guy who followed me called Curio. He had 9,000 when he followed me. This is like a month ago, and now he has 20k. That Jose guy, I don't know if anyone follows that Jose guy. He had 2k when I had like 6k. Now he has like 20 something, and there's some other people as well. It's just annoying. But most of my stuff is demonetized, which I don't think helps at all. Oh, why am I on top chat? Give me live chat. Blackjack dealer would be boring, way better than working at Tesco. Yeah, I guess so, but I don't know, I still wouldn't fancy it. All bourgeoisie media is corrupt innately, plus any freedom of the press in a social society gives way to capitalist encirclements. All bourgeois media is corrupt. Yeah, I guess the definition of corrupt, I think the BBC, I don't think it's corrupt, I just think it's insanely biased to the pro-Brexit arguments while pretending to be impartial. And I think when it is trying to be impartial, that often leads itself to the right-wing arguments being more prominent just because it's trying to be fair, even though their arguments aren't as good. General Public says, why do you lose subs if you live stream? You pretty much lose subs all the time when you upload videos, but when you I don't know, something about live streaming tends to put people off a bit more. I don't know why. Maybe because they think people might have weird logic about what channels they subscribe to, like they don't like people who live stream, I don't know. It's like someone saying I'm not racist, my parents are black. Yeah, exactly. Redley is saying Curio jumped up recently. Yeah, he did. I think he made some video on Jordan Peterson, and it did really well, I think, as one. Guessing people would unsubscribe due to notifications if they're not that interested, which is absurd, because Cav number one. Yeah, I don't know, maybe, yeah, like, it could be that, could be just people don't like live streaming channels. Yeah, Jose and Curia did videos that did well. Did anyone see the Charlie Kirk, Kyle Kalinske debate? I never watch those debates. It's from Political. It's got Anna Kasparian and Tommy Lauren. The thing in my mind is that Tommy Lauren and Charlie Kirk, they're such grifters. I'm not really interested in watching them debate because their position just comes from being paid to say this crap. I don't even think I believe that Tommy Lauren believes half the stuff she says, but it just, is very marketable. I think that's why most people make right-wing YouTube channels or work in right-wing media. It's just so easy to make money. So Sarah's saying, off topic, but Ben from Ben and Jerry's made an ice cream called Bernie's Back and did a raffle. There are 40 winners, and while I fucking hate my birthday, which is tomorrow, I won the ice cream this time to put my calendars on it. Oh, nice. Happy birthday for tomorrow. Are you 24 or 20? Sorry, are you... I get confused because Kennedy is my age. Are you 22, I think? But yeah, happy birthday for tomorrow. I hope it's good. What flavour is the ice cream? I'd really like to try that. Only 40 winners there. They should make it so. Enter in the 24 club. Okay, so it'd be same. Oh, we're the same age. Okay, that's I remember. You, me, and Kennedy are all the same age. I'm 24 in 3 weeks. Not looking forward to that. Is there going to be Brexit on Halloween? No, it's like 99% sure Brexit's not happening until 2020 now. It's actually such a joke. It's like, we know if you're going to put a bill forward that's been rejected like 3 times already, that's pretty similar to Theresa May's. No one is going to vote for it, so you obviously need a general election to break the deadlock or change it significantly. So the Tories are just crazy trying to keep pushing it and thinking people will vote it in just because they keep doing it. And then obviously Burkow said they couldn't even put it to another vote because there's just no point. Could it be the exact same result? Charlie could talk so much and Kyle's getting upset. What sort of upset? Do you mean like angry or like upset? So, it's a Jake Tapper thing. He needs to randomly punch at the left for stupid shit off the right does something awful, yeah. Jake Tapper has a weird problem with Palestine for some reason. He always brings it up when he's talking about Rashida Tlaib. It's really weird. I had to brag. No, it's a super cool thing to actually win. I won, the best thing I ever won was I won Halo 4 off a Mountain Dew bottle. Then I won £50 off, in Xbox credit off the next year's Mountain Dew bottle. And on the first time I bought each one, and it was a half price or something. So I was super happy with that. So, all you need is one video to make you go viral for big jump subscribers. Well, that's what I had with my Bernie one back in March. It didn't go viral, but it got 22k. And it obviously targeted the right audience because I got a lot of subscribers from it. Lately it's been hard. Like, I've been thinking some of these videos, not gonna go viral, could do a bit better, but because I don't get monetized, I think it's hard. So the ones I made this week weren't so bad. Like, you could imagine them doing better, but because they're not monetized, they don't. So I don't know. I'm writing my Metal Gear one at the moment. Taking me ages. I think that could do well if it gets monetized, but I still don't know. A lot of folks do live streams on separate channels. Yeah, I could do that, but at the same time, I don't see the point. It's just hard to get people to go subscribe to a different thing. It's like, that's why I don't actually have that many Twitter followers, because it's hard to make everyone jump on your Twitter, because it's just hard to make people do anything off the platform. Yeah, that's a good point, Evan. There hasn't been many mentions of all the protests in Lebanon and Chile and stuff. So yeah, it's the same in America. It says they don't want people to do it here. How much would you love it if we did those protests in Chile, like, million people? It'd be sick. Not like the British protests are quite pathetic. Like the ones for Trump and Brexit have been pretty like tame and annoying. General public, I'm gonna disagree with you there, being the most upvoted video on BreadTube subreddit gets you loads of subs. I've been the most upvoted video 5 times in the last month. I had 5 of my videos, and the most views one has got is 5,000. The least one has got is 800, and it was on the front page with like 1.6k upvotes, and then some of my others were like 2 point something k. So it does not translate to subscribers. I mean, it does a tiny bit, but not really. What do you think of South Park? Also turned 18, so hopefully vote for Corbyn in December. Yeah, if we have the December election. I don't watch South Park. Apparently, someone made a video on it, didn't they? Like, it used to be like really libertarian, but now it's targeting more left-leaning issues, so that's good at least. Not looking forward to age 24. I'm 37, dude. Yeah, but still, it's just getting older, isn't it? I just can't be bothered. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. Okay, Joel. Well, I'll just take your word for it. That annoying age number just keeps going up and up forever. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll still be chilling until I'm 25. That's what I'll say. Johnson doesn't want a general election because it means he'll lose. I don't know about that. I think it'll be really close. Like, I've seen polls saying Labour will win and Tories will win, so I'm not too sure. Hi, Kin. Thanks for joining. Maxime Berner was the Conservative running for the election in Canada, wasn't he? So the Bernie ice cream flavour is hot cinnamon ice cream with a big disc of chocolate to represent the top 1%. You break the chocolate and get some caramel representatives back. That sounds nice. You got to tell us next week how it tastes. How much did I miss? Not much. I've only been doing it for 20 minutes. He was just getting mad and yelling, but I think it will come off as him losing the debate to an average non-progressive viewer. Hey Cav, how am I feeling? Hi, Curious Wonder. Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Look, nose is still broke. If you can't really see in this light, but it's going like that. This is better. There's just big scars now, like on this, but you can't really see it. And I'm just leaving these on for a bit longer. But I had my stitches out on Thursday, and it kind of hurt, but not too bad. And then what else? Went on a Friday to schedule my operation, but I don't know when it's going to be. It needs to be in the next week and a half though, because this sets itself back, like it cures itself, the nose, because I don't think it's actually broken that bad where it needs to be properly fixed, but at the same time just need to make sure I fix it before it really heals itself. Thanks, Kevin. Hope you feel better. Keep the good weight. Yeah, thank you a lot. Hello, Mountain Dew, a great combination. Yeah, I don't drink Mountain Dew anymore, but back in the day I used to love it. Oh, okay, Charlie Kirk used the debate as a soapbox and talked like he was on amphetamines. Everyone's saying, think you would vote Brexit Party, Cav? I'm considering it. Labour's plan won't rid us of the EU austerity. Social Democrats suppress me. I'll just bend to the bourgeoisie EU. No, I'll never vote for Brexit Party. Come on, like, think about what that party represents. Not only do they have super dodgy funding, they're a bunch of racist idiots. Like, that is what Brexit Party represents. I don't think you can find many people who will vote for the Brexit Party and they aren't racist, so never vote for the Brexit Party. While I would take Corbyn staying and leaving the EU, trust me, leaving the EU under a Tory government and under a Brexit Party government would not be good for anyone. No deal Brexit would be utterly disastrous, and that's what the Brexit Party want. Even a bad deal Brexit would be bad. Like, I write about Brexit a lot for my part-time job, and even just leaving in general is so bad for like general job prospects in a lot of ways and general economic areas. But no deal Brexit would be so awful. So yeah, don't vote for the Brexit Party. Never vote for the Brexit Party. You just can't. I hate English people. I'm not trusting a bunch of racist English people with the future of the country, especially when they want to no deal Brexit. It's depressing they want it. It's just ridiculous. So I hate Lib Dems and the Tories too, but I just vote for Labour. Never vote for the Brexit Party. Do I think PragerU will win their third attempt to sue YouTube? Are they suing YouTube again? Fuck's sake. No way you would vote for Fraud yet. Never would. Never. King John saying, fascism, I think, has its roots in certain areas, like Melian dialogue, where the Athenians said, strong do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. Even Thomas Hobbes, Machiavelli. Is that the whole might is right stuff? General public saying, oh well, that subreddit is a lagging indicator then. Yeah, it's not good. Like, I've been on the top of BreadTube so much in the last month, and it doesn't translate to anything, so... apart from good karma on Reddit. Oh yeah, follow me on Reddit if you want as well. So Red Leader saying, I'm starting to get really annoyed with how Reddit is and how Hong Kong right now are getting downvoted, racist over it, but saying nothing about people massacred in Chile, Iraq, Lebanon. Yeah, it's because people just have a hard on for China, don't they? Because it's communist, or so-called communist and socialist, so people get really, really butthurt about it. So, and the other stuff, what makes me laugh a lot, actually, I see the people liking these protests, like these centrist liberals from Hollywood, like Mark Hamill. I've seen him liking some of the Chile stuff. And I'm like, you would not support these protests here. They're not protesting like Donald Trump. They're protesting like capitalism and neoliberalism. That's what the protest's about. It's like the Arab Spring. It's like America framed it as a protest against dictators. Yeah, in part it was that, but it's more a protest against capitalism, which people like to undermine because they think it's about democracy. It's not about that. It's about improving the economic conditions. So, yeah, it's the way even the Americans who try and pay attention to this stuff, not just Americans, Westerns in general, and they don't actually understand what these protests are. Like the Hong Kong protests, I think are a bit more simple. It's like, yeah, they want to infringe more on Hong Kong's, not independence, but, you know, their own system by getting more Chinese authority over it. Yeah, I get that. I get that protest. It's pretty easy as well. But when you talk about Chile, I saw some people from Chile writing in some Reddit threads. They were like, "It's not left versus right. It's poor versus the rich, or it's poor versus the elite." And I'm like, well, then that is left versus right. I know you don't want to roll any feathers by saying that on Reddit because all the libertarians and conservatives will get you for it. But that is what you're describing right there. How does it get 2 upvotes for every view? Because, Mac, I think people don't actually watch the video, they just agree with my statement. So if I say something like, what was my last video? Got quite a lot of upvotes. Let me have a look. If I say something like, let's have a look. Alright, so if I say something like, Ellen's friendship with George Bush proves the rich have solidarity despite their differences, they upvote it because they agree with that particular comment, but they don't actually watch the video. And that's the problem, I think. Hi Kennedy, thanks for joining. Even the media try and spin it negatively. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. South Park has always been great. I had never really watched it, but I've heard better things about it lately. We were recording a last minute episode. What were you doing this week? I still feel like I'm turning 16. Sometimes I feel like that. Like, I feel like the same age, 16, 17, 18. But then I really think about it and I don't feel that way. But yeah, I get it. You're like the British Sargon. Wait, no, I'm not like him. He's a piece of shit. I'll still be chilling to the day I die, even if I live up to 100. Damn, Cav is so far back in the chat. Yeah, because I was doing top chat and now I'm doing live chat. I don't actually have the time as well. What's the time? Oh shit. Hurry up in the chat sharp, Charles. You should know Canadian politics better. They are your subjects after all. Not my subjects, or I guess I am half English or whatever. Cav, can you set up a Patreon Discord? I'll become a patron if you do. What is a Patreon Discord specifically? Is it just like a... I know what Discord is vaguely, because I do have it. It's just like a chat room. Also, Evan, you're 16. Don't become a patron. Don't waste your money. So not to say these thinkers are understood, especially Machiavelli, has the prince, was Mussolini. What are you saying? Mussolini read the prince? But people also think the prince is meant to be satire, don't they? But if it's not, it's like the foundations for like international relations and politics, isn't it? Oh, the Prince was Mussolini's favourite book. Okay. It's from like a complete different age, but Mussolini did kind of want to be... Well, I guess he didn't want to be like Cesare Borgia, but he wanted to be like the Roman emperors, didn't he? What's my view on Scottish independence? I didn't support it back in the day, but now I really do, especially the way the English are screwing them over. So yeah, 100% support it. Yeah, the Brexit Party is mostly paranoid English. Evan, I disagree with you. I met a really passionate anarchist at the protest, the Trump protest, and he's handing out leaflets, and he said, yeah, EU is a capitalist state, but it's far better in helping us connect rather than setting ourselves off. Evan, I think, no offense, but I think you might be wanting something you don't fully understand in terms of the people. The Brexit Party aren't some like people who are against capitalism. The Brexit Party are some of the furthest or the most capitalist bootlickers. You might know a communist guy in it, but they're not for communism. They're not for workers' rights. Boris Johnson and his friends and all of them, they want to rewrite the laws in this country. And for example, if we leave the EU, there is no explicit law in the UK that protects transgender people. Do you think the Tory party are going to pass laws to protect transgender people, for example? Because only the EU law has transgender in its actual laws against discrimination. The UK law doesn't have it. So there's loads of little things like that which the EU protects us from. Like, do you trust a Tory government to write loads of new laws? I wouldn't trust them for a second, and I wouldn't trust the Brexit Party for a second, because I'm scared the Brexit Party are going to actually get quite a sizable chunk in the election, and then they're going to dictate the conversation of how we're going to leave the EU. And no deal leaving the EU is going to completely wreck our economy and just fuck so many people over. It's just going to be no good for anyone. The problems with this country don't come from the EU. The problems with this country come from capitalists in the Labour Party during the Blair years and capitalists in obviously the Tory Party. That's the problems of this country, not the EU. Especially when they exploit so much EU labour. It's like saying the problems of America are that there's too many illegal immigrants. Not exactly the same, but it's like blaming something that really isn't the problem. Like, in my opinion, the EU isn't the problem in this country. The EU doesn't let us nationalise our own industries, but we do nationalise some industries. And we want to nationalise the trains again. I swear we were in the European Economic Community when we had nationalised railways. Evan, what part of the country are you from as well, by the way? We need to be rid of the EU or Europe will fall to fascism and reactionaries. I don't understand that argument. How will we fall to fascism if I'm pretty sure the fascists have been completely emboldened by the Brexit stuff. The Brexit Party are the most mainstream fascist party I've seen in ages. And UKIP. This is literally as far right as you can get in mainstream British politics. Everyone who used to vote for BNP likes to vote for Brexit Party now, because it's what they represent. General Public says Thomas Hobbes was all about absolute monarchy to oppress people, and Machiavelli was all about being an evil scheming tyrant. Yeah, unless the Prince is actually a satire. Hi Izzy, what's up, dude? Going Matrix style. Yeah, it's just because my fucking face is still fucked, and migraine stuff. I just don't want to take a chance with. It's like Red Lee says. It's like how Americans reframe Tiananmen Square to be against communism instead of a Marxist Christian. Yeah, it's a pro socialist movement, wasn't it? They got crushed at Tiananmen Square. So I went on the second Remain march the other day. I was discussing the EU is racist. Evan, I'd hate to break it to you. I think a group of people who are way more racist than the EU is actually the Tories and the Brexit Party. I think if you hate racist groups in the EU, for example, maybe some more Eastern European countries or Central European countries, don't know why you would vote for the Brexit Party. If you're against racism, you can't vote for the Tories or the Brexit Party. They are racist. The government in this country is racist. The Sargon guy's back. Well, not back. He still has his YouTube, doesn't he? But Evan, how do you reconcile saying it's a right wing position to remain in institutions such as the EU when the whole right wing in this country don't want to remain in it? How do you reconcile that? Why do all the right wing want to leave the EU but the left wing don't? All right, see you later, Logan. Sorry, I missed your comment. I saw a lot of middle class people from Ecuador defending the shit happening. It's sad how the narrative can be easily swayed by rich white voices, like with Cuba. Yeah, exactly. It's like all the Cuban expats in America, isn't it? They dictate the conversation. We did an episode on the recent Bernie endorsements and celeb engagement. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's been good to see that you got endorsed by the squad. It's kind of funny to see all liberal heads explode about it, though. Yeah, but left wing populism doesn't mean you got to leave the EU. The right wing populism about leaving the EU isn't about workers' rights. So for example, right, if the right wing should be saying, all right, we're gonna stop getting cheap migrant labour for construction in this country, and what we're gonna do is we're really gonna push British construction, right? Right wing aren't doing that because they're full of shit. Because if when Brexit happens, there's going to be a massive deficit of construction workers in this country. Like, there's not going to be enough people to fill it up. So, if you were really pro workers or whatever, you'd be like, let's push British people into these jobs. Yeah, but George Galloway is absolutely full of shit. So Redley is saying, by the way, did you see the fucking BS COD did in their newest game? Literally said the highway massacre. Said the highway massacre the US committed was actually Russian. Like they said, it was matter of fact. It's disgusting. Wait, what highway massacre? I need to play the new COD. How would you feel if I did a Fight Club sequel, especially the context of the day? King John, have you watched Mr. Robot? There's your Fight Club sequel. But yeah, if it's anything like that, be totally fine with it. Become a Michael Brooks patron and join a Discord. It's incredible. So it's just like a chat thing. I'm not Patreon. I don't give anyone money on Patreon yet. So okay. Oh, thanks Izzy for the $2. Sorry I missed this. Need to do what I can to support the channel. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, but Evan, I don't think there's a through line between the Brexit Party and socialism. It's literally the antithesis of that. there is no mainstream people in the Brexit Party who are pro-socialism, and they're not going to get you socialism unless you just want to completely fuck over the country, and then hope in the desperation people realise it's the right wing who fucked them over. But I really wouldn't bet on that at all, just because of how entrenched their power is. Like the media does the work for them. Do you honestly think if you get no deal Brexit, people are gonna blame the Tories? I highly doubt it because of how dumb people are. Yeah, but Evan, I don't understand. I don't understand your logic in terms of you're saying the anarchist is wrong, but in terms of exploitation. But how are we less exploited if the right wing break us off from the EU and get to write the new laws in this country? I don't understand how that's better. The EU guarantees some good protections on a lot of things. Like, I don't trust. There's no way I'd ever support a right wing Brexit ever. Boris Johnson is like the British version of Steve Bannon. I don't even know what he's a British version of. He's just a fucking moron. Um, yeah, most of these fascists don't really understand what they're reading. I agree. The US equivalent to the EU would be NAFTA. I guess you can make that argument, but it's really not the same thing because the EU is about having the right to work in different countries and travel around them, and they have the same money, so it's a lot different. Um, do you know what goes on at Skull and Bones? Well, you have a family audience, so I can't say. What's Skull and Bones? Uh, so sorry, just gonna skip a few now. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit better. Um, yeah, exactly, Michael. We pay so much, and it's such a fucking rip off, and it's crap. Um, okay. uh, BTW. That sounds absolutely disgusting. How did this even come up? Are you just telling me about some sex cult? Um, yeah, the US equivalent to EU would be the US. That's more like it. Um, so Antelli's saying Golden Dawn in Greece is worse than the Brexit Party. Yeah, very far right. Anyone who's far right in this country supports the Brexit Party. Yeah, Izzy. The thing with Brexit is, like, Evan's making the argument it's about working class and stuff, and yeah, I get it. I think people seriously downplay how much Brexit is about just fucking racism. Because what you have when you look at a map is a bunch of, in essence, white places that don't have a lot of immigration apart from Birmingham. And they all caught on to the, like I've made other videos about, I don't think it's these people's fault necessarily, but they all got influenced by propaganda from the government. So Evan, you're 17. So when was Brexit? Brexit was 3.5 years ago. So I'm not saying you don't remember it, but because I was a bit older, I remember it a lot better. None of the arguments from the right wing were that convincing. A lot of it was based on, the big one was Turkey going to join the EU, and because Turkey going to join the EU, that means you have 100 million Muslims from Turkey potentially coming to this country. They can if they want. Then you have a lot of people from Syria and Iraq who can go through Turkey and then end up in the UK as well, far easier. Even David Cameron came out and said Turkey will never meet. Basically, they can't meet the criteria to join EU for like the next 200 years because it's too unstable. That's like factually true, but they kept pushing this whole thing. It was on the fucking radio. These Brexit party, not Brexit, these Brexit ads about Turkey. It would be on the radio. You would see it every day, and all this stuff about the migrant crisis instead of the refugee crisis, which basically absolves us in any role of causing it, and just the general fear mongering. I think it's way more about racism than people give it credit for. Obviously, there is like people who think yeah, the economy's been crap for ages. Let's vote for Brexit, trying to change something. But at the same time, if you see who was the only people campaigning for Brexit were a couple Labour MPs and Nigel Farage, Michael Gove, and Boris Johnson versus Jeremy Corbyn, Sadiq Khan, SNP, half the Tories, or the Lib Dems. I know it's not great company, but I trust a broad coalition of people I like as well, including the SNP and Labour, rather than three rich opportunists who are just pushing out lies, and the Aaron Banks, who's illegally funded his what's it, is it leave.com or whatever it was. Sorry, I was catching up. Some person, as far as I've seen, the only Brexit argument about immigration has to been to help eliminate cheap labour being imported to the UK. Where do you get the idea that it isn't? The thing is, like I'm saying, it's not a legit argument if you don't propose a solution. If you're like, we're going to get rid of cheap labour, which the UK relies on, by the way, it's like in the US, it's like Donald Trump doesn't actually want to get rid of illegal immigrants because so many of his buddies will be using illegal immigrants from Mexico to work in a lot of the jobs that require manual labour. So a lot of agriculture is done in California by illegal immigrants from places like Mexico. There's no way he actually wants to get rid of that, and they rely on exploiting this labour. You think, the US and UK rely on exploiting your labour? Don't you think they love it a bit more when they can pay someone even worse than you? So that's not essentially the problem. The problem is if you're saying this, for example, someone from Poland come over to the UK in the summer, work 3 or 4 months for a cheaper price, then go home and take the money home. But if you're not at the same time saying, let's stop that, and at the same time, here's how we're going to make millions more of young people get into construction, because construction is at an all-time low in this country. People don't want to do it anymore, which I don't blame them. Why do you want to do back-breaking work and have serious physical health problems at 50 years old? But then if you're getting rid of the people who actually do the work, then it's pretty much a recipe for disaster in a lot of these in a lot of these industries. Oh, what? You talking about like that is it the first Gulf War? It's just really bombed out highway and it's just loads of burning cars and stuff. Yeah, but Evan, the thing with free movement is it's people's choice. People come from Poland, for example, and they come here to just work, but it's not like we're getting. I mean, the general in the UK, they're not forcing them to come over. But like I'm saying, they might like it because it's cheaper work. But I don't buy the right wing actually care about that if I don't propose a solution, especially the Tory government at the moment. I think it's similar to the saying that illegal immigrants are the main part of the problem. Like Michael was saying, the reason Amazon should pay their tax right in this country, loads of other companies. The reason they're not has nothing to do with the EU. It's to do with the British laws. So saying that cheap labour is the problems to the work is the main reason the working class have problems in this country. No, it's not the main reason. The main reason is starting with Thatcher, screwed over the working class for how many years has it been? 40 years. That's the main problem. Not some industries like the construction industry rely on cheap foreign labour. Like Evan, I'm talking about. I just broke my nose and done my stitches. Nearly every person who I've interacted with at the doctors is not from this country. Had a lot of people from the EU, had a lot of people from the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, and stuff. And I'm sure there are. I've read some stats that the EU migrants play a massive part in the NHS as well. So stuff like that. So you want to support a party like the Brexit Party, you want to support someone who are basically in bed with the Tories, are basically the far right Tories. You want to support someone like that while at the same time undercutting a lot of the labour we rely on for different industries, because you think that's the main reason that the working class have had it bad in this country. It's definitely not. A lot of migrant labour props up the construction industry and props up the health, well, the NHS. The NHS would be screwed, especially in London. If we didn't have migrants and migrant descendants descendants running the NHS, we'd be screwed. Like I'm saying, everyone who treated me had like an accent, was clearly not born here, and they're coming and working super hard jobs. Like people stitching, like it's crazy. You go into a hospital. These aren't trained doctors; they're nurses, and they're like, fixing up your nose, and they're doing your stitches and taking your stitches out. And it's crazy the amount of money they're not being paid to do all this. And to say they're part of the problem, you're taking. So let's apply your logic to the NHS. Okay, I could say to these ladies, you're taking jobs away from real English people who could do these jobs. What kind of argument is that? Do you think it's their fault? Some of the working class in this country have it really bad. It's these foreign nurses who are helping you out and doing a really shit job. It's not. And just because you might focus on the construction industry argument and whatever, and I've done a lot of research into that. The construction industry in this country really relies on migrant labour, especially from the EU. And fair enough, like you're saying, let's get some more British people doing these jobs instead of cheap migrant labour from the EU. But at the same time, I don't think the argument holds up in two senses, because the people you're saying about voting for the Brexit Party, they're not going to train new British people to do these jobs. Yeah, is he saying it mirrors a lot of the arguments in the US? I think it mirrors the arguments about illegal immigrants in the US. It's like blaming them for taking jobs off Americans. That's not the way it's working. It's people in suits are the people screwing you over, not the people breaking their backs, getting up at 6 in the morning to be exploited for like a couple pounds a day. That's not the person taking your job. Um, yeah, well, Evan, they're saying it's similar, but if you're falling down the rabbit hole and then thinking I got to vote for Brexit Party to stop this, then I don't think it's a great train of thought. Like I get being annoyed at like white liberals and stuff. Like I totally get that. But at the end, I'm not naive enough to trust anyone on the right wing, especially the Brexit Party. Yeah, and also things like the Brexit Party being in bed with Michael's making the point. U.S. industries who want to privatise loads of stuff in this country. When I talk to a fascist, it's like I'm talking to dark side. Oh, okay. Skull and Bones is the Freemason thing. I do know about that. It's the one George Bush Senior was in, isn't it? And people like that. Um, so Evan saying it's difficult to explain. Maybe I'll get a Patreon Discord. Eric saying, I found you for the Drunken Peasants. Do you think you could do another episode with them? They actually did invite me on for another one. They are nice for wanting me on, but I'll say a couple things is I just really didn't like the style of the podcast really, because like they're smoking a bong, and when we're talking about politics, because the thing is, we were talking about politics, but then the other person who came on was an English person who didn't know anything about politics, so you can't start talking about politics too much. And then they're just watching meme videos that I didn't actually find funny, so it's quite boring just sitting there pretending I find it funny. And it actually, the main thing is, I did it for about 3 and a bit hours, and I don't think I actually got more than 10 subscribers off it, and I didn't have a good time either. So I've enjoyed going on other people's stuff a lot more than theirs, and it's actually probably benefited me, despite even if me going on a channel with like 500 subs. If it's the same sort of content as me, it's better doing that than going on their thing, because although it was funny reading some of the comments about me talking about the chavs and they were getting really mad, but yeah, I don't think I'm not sure I'll go on it again. I'm going on Kennedy's show first. Yeah, I am. But like I'm saying, it not that I do that anyway. But I'm saying it's better to go on a show which is similar to mine. Yeah, in Greece they're literal neo Nazis. The Brexit Party to me, this is the way I see it. The Brexit Party, groups like the Republicans in America, I think in my head, if in World War Two we got taken over by Nazis, these are the people who would jump right in bed with them. I got no doubt in my mind about that. 100% they would do that. So that's why I never give them any. They're not even like patriots. I think being patriotic is dumb, but they're not even patriots. They're complete sellouts. Um, sorry, I'll skip a couple because I'm really behind. I'll pick up on some. Yeah, but some person, like, even that argument's dumb because first of all, like I'm saying, can you trust people who are part of the Tory government that consistently slash funds for the NHS? Do you think they'll actually use the money for the NHS? No, they won't. And the NHS relies on migrants and immigrants who, first of all, the EU migrants will be put off from coming here, and it'll be harder for them to get here. General migrants might not want to come here because we're so fucking racist, and Brexit is just showing us for what we are. Evan, I don't get your point. Why do boats of immigrants coming from North Africa make the EU racist? I don't understand that. Didn't it? Wasn't it our government who just deployed the Royal Navy to stop migrant boats from coming here? Yeah, but again, Evan, how are you going to get that if you have the Tories in power? They literally have made the worst immigrate. Like I wrote about this. The what's it called? The Tories have since 2015. They've tried to make asylum seeking as difficult as possible. They say Britain is one of the worst places in Europe to seek asylum because we made it so hard for people and it's so inhumane. So I'm not trusting them for a second to make us a better policy. Um, yeah, Kennedy's saying, do you honestly think the Brexit Party is going to create dignified immigration system? Yeah, hell no. Um, so some person saying the solution is to limit low skill immigration to Australia, which made it easy by leaving a group. Yeah, but some person, how many of these low skill workers are really taking the jobs? Like actually take, like I'm saying, they're coming over. A lot of them are pretty desperate and coming from poorer countries in the EU. I don't think a lot of the companies like the anger is so misdirected. You should be mad at so-called British companies and British people choosing to pay people this much money. You should be mad they're paying basically slave wages to people. You shouldn't be mad at these people coming over to do it. Like, ask yourself this: what would make you go over to a foreign country, work a back-breaking job for like barely any money? It's the same. I don't see much of a difference between the arguments Republicans use that people are saying against illegal immigrants working the fields in California. How is it any different? Like what you're saying is in terms of we need to limit low skill immigration. A lot of these people, yeah, they come here legally, but they're basically doing the work of illegals. They're not having like a great life doing this crap. A lot of them, like you've seen those videos. People they just stand around in the morning at a certain spot. A truck comes by, says, "Come do this job for this much money today," and they all get in and do it. And the lives they live are completely fucking shite. So of course there are legal ways to come here and do it. There are obviously low skilled workers, by definition, even though I don't think they're low skilled, who come here. They might not be exploited as bad. Maybe for some Polish firms that can hire them and whatever, they can get some decent pay and they can cut a share out for the market. But I don't think the anger should be at the Polish people coming here. It should be at the people who, first of all, don't pay their workers enough and choose to use this labour, especially the way they exploit them. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem with the EU. We're always going to do that to people. They're still going to come here, and we're still going to use cheap illegal labour, even though it's not technically legal. There's very similarities with the way they treat Hispanics in Southern America. So Stacey saying the far right is wrecking the US, and no, they're not good for anyone but the majority demographic. Yeah, but Evan, you're also saying Brexit will hurt trans and disabled people, but you'll vote for it anyway. And I don't see the problems with the working class in Britain really tied to Brexit in any way. I think it's more a problem with the current government and the Tories and Labour since Thatcher. um, Evan, do you think the EU is different to us? Like, you're talking about exploiting Africa. Do you not? What do you think the UK does in Africa? Um, yeah, but Evan, your argument makes no sense. How can you be for socialism, but you're considering literally voting for the closest mainstream party to fascism in this country? You want to vote for a party that will prop up the current government. They'll definitely get into. What do you think is more likely? Brexit Party will go into coalition with the Tories, or the Brexit Party will destroy the Tories? They're always going to go in coalition government if that happens. And I don't know if you just want to destroy the whole system by hoping they'll get a no deal Brexit that will completely fuck over the country. But the thing is, I would say I would take, if you had to say to me, leave the EU and you get a Corbyn government, I would do that. If you said to me, leave the EU and you'll get a Brexit Tory government for the next 10 years, I'd be like, fuck no. Like, no way in hell. Because at the end of the day, what the Brexit Party represents, people try to make the argument the Brexit Party isn't about racism. It's pure racism. They don't have a leg to stand on. Their arguments don't make any sense. Like, the Tories and Brexit Party's arguments on Brexit don't actually make sense. Respect the will of the people and all this crap. What 17 million people voted leave? How many people live in the UK? Is it like 65 million? There should be obviously an election and a vote on the last deal as well. So stopping it and lowering it, and hopefully extra funding for the NHS. Yeah, but the thing is, some person, do you know what a high skilled job is considered in this country? If you want a visa, you need a job that pays over 30 grand, a year if you're a foreign nurse, right? And a lot of the time, if you're just starting out as a nurse, or done a couple years as a nurse, you're not getting 30 grand for a year's work. So what will happen is loads of those EU nurses can't come here anymore because you need a tier 2 work visa, which means you need a sponsorship and you need 30 grand a year coming in, and you need 35 grand at least to become a citizen. Yeah, so general public just saying that, and I just pointed out what it is. Yeah, but Evan, do you know what's more right wing? The Brexit Party and the British Tories. The rise in fascism in Europe isn't down to the EU existing. It's down to individual countries' governments having awful economic policies for years in terms of and people's getting desperate and blaming shit like the migrant or the refugee crisis on, you know, calling it the migrant crisis, essentially saying all these people coming to coming to our countries, taking our jobs. One, they just stay where they are. Well, obviously, a lot of them are just fleeing war zones which we've created. So, for example, France and England, it's not they're not having shit economies for the working class because of the EU. They're having shit economies because of the individual governments. There are countries in the EU that are relatively okay, places like Denmark and some of the Scandinavian countries that are actually in the EU, and places like Holland, for example, Holland, Belgium, where you know workers' rights and general welfare is better than places like France and the UK. And I mean, yeah, leaving the EU ain't gonna stop migration. Look at France, for example. Look how many of their immigrants come from Africa. The EU doesn't have shit to do with it. Yeah, general public. That's what the anarchists were saying. Marxism was about being internationalist, and they see the EU as a better way to do it. Um, yeah, general public saying British communists ought to have solidarity with comrades and workers all over the world, and to me, Brexit's just saying fuck you to the people who might want to come here for a better life, which I'm all for if you want to do that. Obviously, I'd like to help improve your conditions in your own country so you don't actually have to move, but I'm not going to demonise migrants to come in here. My grandma came over here when she was 16 for a better job because Ireland was crap. Am I going to turn around and say, yeah, sorry, my whole family's my parent or my family being well off enough is because my family back in the day were able to move here to a more prosperous country. And what I'm just going to turn around and be like, yeah, well, if you're from Poland now, fuck you, because my grandma came here and worked for really cheap wages for rich people, but now we've established ourselves, fuck you, you can't do the same thing. So that's why I don't agree with these arguments too much. Um, H.W. Bush was in a sex cult. I ain't seeing that. Probably all of them were, like Bill Clinton, I reckon as well. Um, United States is legit evil. Yeah, that's another thing. If we get Brexit, who's gonna carve up our industry? It's the fucking US. They're not even. They didn't even Lib Dems and the Tories. They didn't even vote against that the other day in Parliament. They're like, let's protect the NHS from being part of the US trade deal, and then the fucking Tories and Lib Dems voted against protecting it. So yeah, I'm not opening. I don't want to open the country up to that. Yeah, but Evan, I don't understand why that means you have to leave the EU. Because leaving the EU is already going to be shit for this country. No deal, which the Brexit and far right Tory support is just going to be total disaster. I think when it comes down to it, a lot of this whole debate about the EU is like what it represents. The being part of the EU, like it or not, has stopped a lot of aggression in Europe. Because if you look at European history, they've tried things like the EU before. The Concert of Europe, which was established by Castlereagh, the Foreign Secretary in the 1820s, the whole goal of it was to stop fighting each other. This is after the Napoleonic Wars. It was like we got to stop fighting each other because we've just been doing this for like 1,000+ years, and then that failed because I just couldn't get people to agree with stuff like that. And then you have obviously the League of Nations, which is on a more globalized scale, and then you have a more localized one, the EU, which is like, we just fought a massive war, like two of the most devastating wars of all time, and we need to start working together more. That's what the EU represents in my mind. Yeah, I understand it's easy for corporations to exploit people. They can move around way easier, dodge tax way easier. They can move their whole workforces wherever they want. I get that argument, but at the same time, Western Europe was killing each other for thousands of years, and they stopped now after trying multiple times to create an EU institution. And when you have World War Two veterans coming on the TV and saying, you know, I went to war in Europe, and seeing it together now, like, despite all those problems, is just way better than having all this animosity about, am I going to go to war with Germany again and stuff. So, yeah, I get, but I don't understand the argument that EU is bad, that the British government isn't bad. I'd think you'd be like, if you want to leave the EU, what do you want a total revolution, destroy the whole British government, destroy the monarchy? Because I don't see the answer as leave the EU, but then just will be at the mercy of British politics without any protection. I'd rather have the EU, because look how good they're being with some of this. We keep postponing the deal over and over again. We keep asking for extensions, and what do? They keep saying, yeah, you can have an extension, because we don't want to basically screw over your whole population. They could just go, yeah, fuck it, you're leaving next Wednesday. We don't give a shit what happens to you. You're just going to leave. And obviously there are economic interests there as well, but they could just be like, yeah, fuck you. You leave now. That's what you wanted. And then we're talking about the border in the Channel Tunnel and things shutting down, people not being able to get their medicine. Is that what you want? That you want to put power, because you're talking about voting for the Brexit Party, you want to put power in people's hands who will do that. I just don't understand how that makes anything better or gets what you want, apart from if you just think we got to create a climate that everyone will blame the Tories and blame the Brexit Party, and then there'll be some mass strike and the big revolution where we'll change the whole system. If that's the only way I understand any of that, but then I think that's super naive, because that's not going to happen, because like you're saying about the BBC, you know how entrenched the Tories are when all the elements of power. There's no way people are going to blame the Tories en masse if no deal Brexit, which it will completely fuck us over. General public saying the United States is the world leader in racist imperialism, capitalism, colonialism, and warmongering. Yeah, you're like the success of the British Empire. Yeah, the NHS could be privatised and sold to American corporations. Like, why would you want to risk that? Sorry, what's the time to check how far behind I am? Very far behind. Skip a couple more. Golden Dawn claimed that when they seized government, they would annex Cyprus, take Istanbul, and call it Constantinople again. The lunatics said they would have the Empire of Alexander the Great. The problem with that, King John, it does sound funny, but it's literally the same rhetoric fascists in Spain and Italy use, isn't it? It's like Mussolini wanted to restore the Roman Empire, and Franco wanted to restore the Empire of Philip II and stuff. It's the rhetoric they always use to play on this historical image of what Greece and what Italy and what Spain used to be. Same with Brexit. It's like what we used to be. We used to be independent. We didn't get involved with Europe. We were a world power about all that shit. Evan, I think you're super naive. If you're thinking the EU is responsible for your exploitation, you want to get rid of them, and then hand complete control to the right wing in this country. I think you're crazy. I think the right wing in this country are way less reasonable than a lot of the centrists in the EU. Sorry, just read a couple. Yeah, Mike was saying something I was thinking. So, Mike, you're talking about the EU making Kenya do things. I'm not too familiar with it, but it sounds a lot like what the IMF make everyone do. And the IMF is obviously Western run, mainly US influence, which makes countries prioritize all their industries. I don't how much if Kenya wants to trade with the EU and has to do that, I'd be surprised if the IMF doesn't have a hand in that because they provide a lot of the money to prioritize their economy. Yes, some person, sorry, because I said it so long ago, I don't know what you're thanking me for telling you. Maybe it's about the Tier 2 visa. Yeah, Evan, I think you're way too idealistic. You're talking about we'll be safe as long as we build the road to British socialism. How many people in this country have a positive view of socialism? The reason we're in this mess is because of English people. I don't know why you rely the English people are not going to save you. So I'm just reading more because I'm so far behind. Keep me going, keep me going. Sorry, I haven't speaking. I'm just trying to catch up with people. I know people are arguing. Um, so some person saying, what do you think about retailers in the UK mostly using the same single union and refusing to recognise any other? Well, I don't know too much about it in terms of what union, but I'm guessing dealing with one union, especially if you know them well, helps you just get favourable terms instead of dealing with multiple ones who might pressure you. And based on like, more nuanced situations, obviously some retailers are better than others. It's just a better way to maintain control, I guess. Um, sorry, I'm keep. Yeah, some person I agree with you. It's disgusting that the Queen has a final say on the laws. I made a whole video about this. It's totally ridiculous. Um, right, keep going. Oh, okay, so many comments. Let's read them all. Because people are arguing, it's kind of hard to pick one to read. Yeah, but Evan, I don't understand your argument. The immigration system in this country is going to get so much worse when we leave the EU. We're gonna, like I'm saying, my job at the moment is for something called the Immigration Advice Service. So I write about all these issues. The UK is already so bad for asylum seekers, but it has to agree to something that the EU puts in about asylum seekers, right? It has to agree to that. But then when we leave the EU, the Tories get to write their own laws about that even more. They get to make it even harder for refugees to come here, even though it's super hard already. So they get control over that while also expanding the immigration system for non-EU migrants to the rest of the EU, especially when we rely on, like I'm saying, foreign doctors, foreign nurses for the NHS, and yeah, they're moving here to get a better job and a better life, but we rely on those people. It's not an easy job. It pays crap. The hours are shit, and they still come and do it. Even based on something like the NHS, which, if we make the argument all about the NHS, for example, right? If we get no deal Brexit, if we get just Brexit in general, the Tories are going to try and do a trade deal with the US that helps privatise the NHS even more. You're going to undercut the amount of workers we have for the NHS when we need even more. We don't need to get rid of the EU nurses and replace them with British ones. We need to make more British ones on top of the EU ones, because that's how many people we need. Like Bernie Sanders' brother was saying when he ran for a seat in Oxford, I think it was, he was saying even the Labour plan to revive the NHS isn't good enough. You need a massive, massive overhaul, and undercutting that in any way, including Brexit, I think it is seriously bad. I don't think you make a compelling argument at all about why leaving the EU is good, apart from it's a road to socialism, we must change our immigration policy to be more humanitarian. But it seems like everything you're saying is shooting yourself in the foot by voting for Brexit. I can get being annoyed at the EU. I can't. If you're saying in an ideal world, Corbyn would win the election and we'd leave the EU and change all this stuff for the better, then I get it. But you're kind of saying I'm going to vote for the Brexit Party, and that's not going to help anything, is it? Um, so. Oh, okay, we're talking about the Russia stuff in America now. Yeah, I was going to make a video about this. The thing, it's actually crazy how you can, Hillary Clinton can say Tulsi is like a is influenced by Russia or like a Russian agent. That is absolutely mental. She served in the U.S. Armed Forces, and she serves in Congress. How crazy do you have to be to think Russia are pulling all the strings? Did anyone watch Snowden on Joe Rogan? It was pretty interesting. But he's obviously saying like, yeah, the Russians do all this stuff, but it's not like as big as you think. And obviously the US did it in the Soviet Union, does it in Russia today. Isn't like a big or new thing. But yes, the discourse in America, like Russia, you don't even have a reason. The thing is, the US is so powerful. You don't even have a reason to be scared of Russia. Like I can understand Russia hysteria a bit more in the UK because we're obviously in closer proximity to them. Um, but we still have NATO. Not that I trust Donald Trump to help the UK out if Russia attacked us, but still. Okay, two tier two Vs. Okay, yeah, no problem. Um, so Ken saying the requirements to work as a pharmacist in the UK, if you're not originally an EU citizen, you need to do a year of uni and then work as an intern for 2 years straight in the same place without getting fired or moving jobs. And then you can get the extra exams to maybe get a chance, not to mention your employer needs to sponsor. Yeah, exactly, Ken, it's so hard, isn't it? And I don't have any faith that the UK government's gonna make it easier for British people to do that and get the numbers we need. English people in general are just. I'm not gonna let them off the hook for being working class. That they can be racist garbage, especially when I'm from an Irish family and the people the people who support the Tories trying to absolve these people of war crimes in Northern Ireland are the same English people you talk about are the same English people who vote for the Brexit Party, and I don't think they all do this because of the working class. I live in an area that is near you would call the people working class, like they fit the British bulldog stereotype, but they're not working class, they're middle class. They just have the tendencies of like that old stereotype about white British people. They're super English and they're all pretty well off now. but they have like St George's Day parade, and they're proper nationalistic. So I don't buy that English people, if they've been forced into this because they're working class. I think there's something wrong with English people in terms of their patriotism is insane. You see it in the poppy debate, and I don't have too much sympathy for the English a lot of the time. I'm not a massive fan of English people. Like pure, you know what I'm talking about, pure Brexit bulldog English people. Can't stand. And the thing is, I think in this country you don't have as much as an excuse. I don't think you're conditioned as much to be racist by the media in terms of, like in America, you literally can't escape it because it's corporate media. In this country, I don't think you're necessarily set up to be a racist from birth, no matter where you're from. You just become one because of British Empire, this sort of propaganda, we're something special, and this nationalism that still exists in this country. Yeah, you got the Sun and the Mail and all that crap. I don't know how influential they are in the younger generations who still become just as racist as the older ones. Um, sorry, it's reading. We must protect the Queen, Ugandan knuckles. Sorry. Hillary is desperate to draw away attention to the fact that a major case in Ukraine Gate was that she was actually the wrongdoer and investigated. Oh, okay. Wait, I remember something about that. Like, it wasn't, there was something like Ukraine with Hillary Clinton that wasn't just, not Tory, Republican propaganda, but I forget exactly what it is. Snowden was on TYT as well, but yeah, Hillary absolutely is trying to stay relevant, especially that she might jump to the race. It would actually be crazy if she jumps into the race. How can you even show your face again after it's Donald Trump? I think the only person who lost an election and came back was Nixon. Um, in modern times, I think. Because I know Reagan ran in like three Republican primaries, but Nixon actually ran in a general. But obviously, he lost to someone who's actually a good candidate in terms of the way he presented himself. And then he was also vice president, and he's pretty like popular in the Republican Party still when he came back, and he crushed in the second election, and not in the one against Humphrey, but the one against who's the other one, McGovern. Yeah, Russiagate is peak liberal fearmongering to stunt the question of the status quo. It actually is crazy how many people believe it. Like, say Tulsi Gabbard was in the pay of the Russians or whatever, which I'd highly doubt. I don't understand why they think the Russians are behind everything. Like, the Russians didn't make Donald Trump win just because they might have hacked some stuff. Do you know what I mean? How much time and power and money do you think they have to spend on this stuff? King John says he hates Tulsi because she's a Hindu nationalist. She's definitely supports Hindu nationalists. I don't know if she actually believes in Hindu nationalism. Be interesting to see if she ever did. But yeah, yeah, that's what people should bring up as a criticism, that she's in the she's being heavily influenced by Indian nationalists, not that she's in the pay of Russia. What was I gonna say? I forgot now. But oh yeah, did anyone see that Tulsi having some sort of speech with people on Wall Street at Anthony Scaramucci's restaurant? How can you defend that shit? People were saying to me when I tweeted it, it was like, she talks to everyone, and I was like, and someone made a good point, like, why do you have to talk foreign policy with a bunch of bankers? And I just wrote, what, so you can tell them when to buy Raytheon stocks? And I was like, imagine Jeremy Corbyn before the election going to the City of London and talking to a bunch of bankers at a rich Wall Street guy's restaurant and tell him about foreign policy. Where no one would defend that. They'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why waste your time doing that unless you want donations? Why would you waste your time talking to a room of rich old bankers? Yeah, only one reason, because you want their money. Liberals can't criticise Tulsi on anything that actually matters, because every evil thing Modi has done has been done 10 times over by Netanyahu, who they all adore. Yeah. Well, they're just super hypocritical and everything like that. Um, sorry, just reading comments again. So King John saying, I don't like Tulsi, but she has some bizarre views on Muslims, and I really think she's sympathetic to Hindu nationalists. Well, I think that whole Islamic terrorist shit what she criticised Obama for was weird, and then she supports like Sisi and Modi, and then what is it recently? Oh, she keeps on Fox News as well to like give basically say their talking points to them, which is mental if you're trying to help out the Democrats. Like Bernie Sanders doing a town hall on Fox News is not the same thing as her going on Tucker Carlson's show to talk about impeachment. Yeah, Michael, I agree. So Michael says, as a half Irish English citizen, John Ball mentality has always been a puzzle to me. It seems to me it represents deliberate bullish ignorance, everything. That's what I feel like. It's this mentality English people have. You know, like in America, the stand for the flag crap. It's like a similar thing here, and it's part of the reason we're destroying ourselves with Brexit, because these fucking nationalists just want to make England like it used to be in like 1920 or some shit like that. Evan, I wouldn't say socialism worked in the USSR or China or most of Eastern Europe. I'd say good examples of communist socialism, the best ones, even though I don't think it's been implemented well anywhere, it's probably Yugoslavia and Cuba. I mean, as well as Cuba can do, being under embargo since 1959. Um, Fuzz saying Democrats were desperate to throw blame to anything to explain why they lost the general election. Um, and that's thanks to fucking over their own party. Yeah, they screwed Bernie, but then I get the electoral system in America is pretty garbage in terms of the electoral college, but at the same time, you know what you have to do to win, and you got a campaign in certain states to win. Evan, you're. I don't think you'll ever convince me Brexit is a good thing. Like when I'm researching for these articles, I write some of the things I read. I'm like, this is just crazy shit. I wish people knew about how bad this is going to be for us, and I don't share your I don't share your idealism at all for this country. I think we're fucked anyway because of just like I'm talking with Michael about the mentality of people in this country. Did she actually say that, Kennedy? I don't know why anyone fucking defends Tulsi now. Um, yeah, what's wrong with white pride bullshit? Yeah, she might as well say that. Tulsi also says she doesn't support Medicare for all. Yeah, it's not progressive. Because she endorsed Bernie before doesn't mean she. I think she might have endorsed Bernie out of hatred for the Democratic Party, like elite, rather than sharing a lot of his policies. Um. So sorry. Yeah, I agree with Kennedy. The point is, there's a socialist ideal of Brexit, and there's the Brexit that's going to happen, and that Brexit blows. Yeah. if you want to completely fuck over workers, vote for the Brexit Party and support Brexit with a Tory government, because that will do way more damage than any element of being in the EU would. I'm hating on the Joker movie so bad, but I haven't even seen it. But I don't know if anyone's seen You Were Never Really Here. It sounds exactly the same. Like even he has like a sick mum in it, and like I was saying at dinner today to my brothers who were telling me to see it. I was like, why the fuck do I want to know that the Joker has a mum? I swear the appeal of the Joker is you're not meant to know his backstory. Like why do I want to see him with his mum and not getting his medication? Yeah, just go as the Joker, Kennedy. Some person I can understand not being 100% pro socialist, but I can't understand being pro capitalist at all. In terms of thinking the socialism is the cure. Evan is a patron for Kennedy's stream. Kennedy's stream? Do you mean Kennedy's podcast? Okay, oh, okay, I think I missed you, but cheers, general public, for tuning in. If I was saying the electoral college is a garbage excuse for representative democracy, ranked choice voting needs to happen, only stick to the popular vote. Yeah, it actually is a crazy system that, depending on where you live, your vote counts double. But I think we have it in the UK here to a bit of a lesser extent because it's not a presidential election. Like the fact the SNP get like the SNP have 40 something seats, and I think their vote share is like 3 million or something. Which I think the Liberal Democrats get more votes than the SNP, but they have double the seats the SNP do. It's crazy. Yeah, but Evan, the EU offers good protections to a lot of things that this country doesn't currently. I wouldn't give them up and let the right wing just take over creating the laws. Evan, we're not getting a left wing government after Brexit. It's just not happening. I don't see. I think Brexit is the issue to fight the election on. I don't think. Well, like what you so this is what you're prepared to risk. You're prepared to risk getting no deal Brexit or Brexit, letting the Tories have another, how many years is it? 3 years in power to do whatever the hell they want, and then maybe get even more years. You're willing to risk that, so they get to write the laws about basically everything we give up with the EU. They get to write all the laws. Like I'm saying, do you think they're going to protect transgender people? How much more austerity do you think's going to affect people? And then guess what? You can't leave. You can't move to Spain anymore. If you well as easy, or you can't move to the continent as easy. You're stuck in some Tory hellscape. Yeah, but Evan, if we crash out of that deal, like legit, there'll be people stockpiling stuff, and people will die from not getting medicine. You should just watch the movie instead of being a contrarian. Yeah, the Joker's trash. Like, people seem like the directors said. I don't, but I've seen Peter Coffin and some other people talk about the Joker being this amazing film about people being left behind. I was like, this concept has been done so many times and probably way better. Not that I've seen the Joker, but You Were Never Really Here. Joaquin Phoenix plays an army veteran who is sort of like a contract killer who kills like paedophiles and stuff. But it's good. And then you have Taxi Driver and all this other stuff. People just saying it's a worse version, or even like a rip-off of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. And the only reason people care about it is because it has a DC comic book skin on it. Otherwise, people just say this isn't a great movie. It's like a rip-off of Scorsese, because if you don't have that inherent attachment to the Joker character before going in, like if you just show this to an alien who doesn't know who the Joker is, they're not going to think this is like an amazing film. That's what I feel about it. Yeah, but Evan, the whole Leave campaign was led by rich, like far right millionaires who whipped up racism to get the vote. Mac, I actually haven't read anything on the Joker. I've listened to one review from Breakfast All Day. He used to do TYT's movie reviews. They hated it, but I've just been what the director said, and then what I've read about the plot. Yeah, but Mac, it is trash. You need to watch better movies. All right, everyone in the chat, uh, say put why if you agree and N if you don't agree. Okay, the Joker movie is trash. Now, even if you think it's good, but not as good as everyone makes out, you write why as well. So everyone agree with me. The Joker movie is trash. um, some person, but how did the Russians put Yuri Gagarin in space before America put a man in space? If capitalism put is the most innovative force. But also, some person, socialism in a lot of countries has never been allowed to thrive. Look at Cuba; they put an embargo on it today, still, but because this tiny island nation doesn't go along with everything the U.S. does. I think you might be associating socialism with authoritarian dictatorships from the Cold War, which is different. And also, I think something you're missing out is that the wealth of our countries and our relative prosperity is based on the fact we colonized the whole world and completely destroyed countries for profit. Well, the reason England's so wealthy isn't because capitalism's amazing and raised England out of a system of poverty on its own like merits and ideology. It's because England literally ran like a third of the world and stole wealth from everywhere else to enrich its citizens. That's why the world is still so unbalanced, because the white countries and general who exploited the rest of the world, they're wealthy now because they just dominated it since then. Um, so keep going. Yeah, that's what I think, John. George Galloway's gone bonkers. Yeah, but Evan, how naive are you that you think if the right wing screw everyone over after Brexit, then the left will win? Have you not been paying attention? I know you're young, but have you not been paying attention the last 10 years? The right wing have been screwing over this country for nearly a decade, and they're not being destroyed in the polls. So do you think Brexit will be any different? The right wing control the media. They control the BBC. They control these news outlets. You have British bulldogs who are so susceptible to this message. Do you honestly think if they screw up Brexit, they're not going to start blaming Jeremy Corbyn or something for not agreeing it earlier? It's pretty naive to think Brexit will make the Tories do something bad and then everyone will not vote against them. People vote against their interests all the time. Look, Donald Trump won the election. You know, how can anyone think he's going to help anyone? But he did. And the UK is not so different from America in that regard. Well, HK, I think the Brexit Party will use that to strengthen their position. But they're already doing fear mongering about immigrants. Yeah, but some person, do you not support NHS nurses? Nurses who won't be able to come here anymore after Brexit from the EU. Of Corbyn voted Remain or led the Remain campaign, but he obviously didn't want to stay in the EU. Yeah, Kennedy hasn't seen it either, but says it's communist. Jenk said the Joker was the best Joker movie ever. Oh damn. I'll disagree with Jenk. He likes Game of Thrones and I hate Game of Thrones. I haven't even watched that, but I just hate it. Comic book movies are dumb and bad anyway. Yeah, I love seeing all the nerds getting butthurt about Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola saying comic book movies are bad. Because it's not like I don't like comic book movies, but I get what people are saying. Like, you go in with no expectations. It's like The Simpsons. Basically, everything, the way the world is set up at the start of a comic book movie is the same way it ends. So it's just boring and there's no stakes. Um, not seen it, so no spoilers, please. I don't even care, but okay. I mean, men like it, so I hate it. I hate it because did anyone? No one really follows me on Twitter, but that guy who said that then he's dancing down the stairs is like the best scene in movie history. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, but some person, but wouldn't capitalist competition create a better space program or something? Isn't that what the argument would be? Or how come like countries? How come the USSR could compete with the US for most of the Cold War? Do you know what I mean? If capitalism is the only way to like get this innovation, how did obviously America was wealthier and eventually towards the end its equipment was better, but the biggest nuclear bomb ever created was a Russian bomb, and then obviously with technology China's making at the moment, it's not for profit, is it? A lot of them don't have to. The state do a lot of it rather than the US have a lot of. Not saying there aren't Chinese companies, but a lot of them are pretty in bed with the state from their inception. Whereas the US one's a bit different. Okay, King John saying it would have been better if it wasn't the Joker, it's something else. Comic movies need to go away. Max saying it's a little annoying that you reviewed movies in college if you're going to be judging things like that without having seen it. I love how it annoys people. Kennedy saying she hates it because Ben like. I'm sure it's a good movie. I'm just not really interested in it, so I'll happily say it's trash. Actually, I will say, without watching it, I know for a fact it is not a deep movie, because I know for a fact Game of Thrones isn't deep, and The Joker isn't deep, because pretty much the consensus is everyone likes it. So I'm saying, yeah, no way. No way is it a deep movie. Like all, what I'm cringing at is all these leftist YouTubers making Joker videos like it's some like the deepest film of all time. I'm like, for fuck's sake, I'm cringing so bad. You great, okay. It shows a guy whose society's forgotten, feels like he has no place, and then lashes out and finds his place and like basically being an extremist. All right, I've seen that movie before. Like literally seen that movie before. It's got nothing new to say. Literally one of the most famous movies of all time has the exact same plot. So basically, Joker, crap. Throw it in the bin. Some person, come on, the reason. So you don't think the reason Britain, France, and England and the US have dominated the last 200 years, it's not because they literally colonised the whole world. The US colonised the whole world through the IMF, military bases and everything, basically making the globalised economy work for their benefit until China has upset the balance of power. Britain and France actually ran the whole world. and you don't think that stolen wealth has any, isn't the main contributor to why these countries have a massive global standing. It's not because Britain was an isolated country that implemented perfect capitalism and there you go, what a great economy and how powerful it is. No, it's because it exploited people, like made natives in other countries do their dirty work for them. But literally caused some of the worst problems in the world today: Israel, Palestine, Pakistan, India. All this crap is a result of colonialism. Syria at the moment is you can trace it back to French colonialism in Syria after the war. And then you take it back to World War One. That Britain got so much access to the oil fields after World War One because it took all its territory from the Ottoman Empire. France did the same thing. So yeah, the reason these countries it's easy to see the reason these countries are powerful is because they've stolen wealth from the rest of the world. It's not because they implemented some perfect system of government or a perfect economic system. Oh, hi Alex. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know when I'm going to stop. Probably give it another 10, 20. The other 2% is from exploiting their own. Yeah, I agree. Texas, yeah. Well, because Texas was pretty independent until, was it 1837 when they got like destroyed by Mexico and then they joined the US. Yeah, Mac. It's obviously not a complete copy of Taxi Driver, but my point is, I don't think if you're copying the general story or themes of another movie, regardless of your own spin on it, which I don't think I read that it has much of a spin on it. My main problem is people think it's deep. It's not my main problem isn't that people think it's good. It's that people think it's like some revelation, like, oh, the Joker has so much to say about society. Doesn't he get like beat up by Antifa or something in the movie as well? Um, yeah, but some person that we rely on foreign nurses and EU nurses. Why would you want to? And especially when more people are living older, so you need more people at the NHS. Why would you cut them off? You need to train more British nurses and keep the ones coming in from the EU. Otherwise, when our generation, who are going to live way longer, will just be fucked. And that will help play into the arguments that we should privatise it, because people will be like, look how ineffective the NHS is, we need a private system so you'll get better care. What do you think Farage's own plans are for his ego? I don't know what Farage will do if we do leave the EU, to be honest. What's he going to do? He's going to have to cause some new outrage. I think he's going to have to leave a movement to, like, I don't know, something else, because I don't think he's just exploiting this to his advantage. Some person saying anyone can be racist. I won't get into this again, but we talked about this last week. Rich film buffs hating on comic book movies makes me want to defend them. I don't know too many rich film buffs, because I don't think being a film critic actually makes too much money. Hi Christy, thanks for joining. Just saw this, sorry. The best scene in movie history is in The Witch when the crow's eating the lady's titty. What the hell? Yeah, Logan and Dark Knight were good films. But yeah, that's saying my problem is Logan and Dark Knight were good films, and Dark Knight was really good. But I wouldn't say they have like some really deep message, and that's why I'm cringing at the Joker, like the discussion around the Joker. Beard's looking good. Thanks, Christy. Always complimenting me, despite me being ugly because of my face. Evan, how is Remain racist when the only side of the EU debate is that actually has diversity is Remain? You don't get any. You seriously barely get any non-white people who vote for Brexit. Maybe a couple Indians who vote for the Tories, but I'd still doubt that. Like, that's a massive block of voters. Just because you had experience of some white liberals in Remain, the thing with liberals as well, liberals can be racist and everything, but the thing is that they're just uneducated and naive. But the thing that I always say with liberals, at least inherently they're trying to be like good in their own weird way. At least they're supporting decent things, even though they're too naive to take the next step. Would you rather them all just be racist pieces of shit like most of the Leave voters, just like inherently become bigoted and awful? So I ain't got no problem allying with liberals for Remain when they're actually in their own minds and they generally do have the right idea about a lot of social issues. They just don't see the problem as capitalism. That's the main problem with liberals, and they'll prop up the system because they're too naive or they don't want to challenge it. I'm not. I'd much rather be friends and vote for the same things as people like that rather than look at a load of racist white English people and be like, yeah, they. I'm gonna help them out. I'm gonna get what they want and help them. No way. Like, liberals, most of the time, liberals are racist because they're naive. The right wing are racist because they're just fucking hateful and racist. So I will easier give people the benefit of the doubt if they're generally being pretty good and stuff, rather than being like, oh, I'll help you lot, Brexit voters, but even though you're so fucking racist. Mac, I really like Inception. It's not a deep movie though. It's a really fun movie. Like the action, it's like a James. It reminds me of a James Bond movie, but like a really good one. Now, Inception's not a deep. Okay, a deep movie, for example, the thing is, I think a deep movie a lot of the time is movies you can read into. Like, I'm not saying Blade Runner and the sequel are necessarily deep on the surface level. I don't think they're inherently super deep, but I think the questions they raise throughout the film, if you want to go into them a lot more, that can be deep. I don't think something like Joker, which has a basic message of look how leaving people behind in this society can create these horrible people, basically. I don't think that's very deep because it's super on the nose. I think it's just my taste in films. I prefer, if there's a story, I prefer things to come in that have, like, that's why I like Mr. Robot so much, because there is a narrative. Mr. Robot is pretty popular. It's gotten more mainstream. Obviously, people aren't thinking about how Mr. Robot is anti-capitalist and everything when they're watching. A lot of people don't think that. Like, my little brother loves Mr. Robot, because he doesn't have the same background as me. He's not thinking about this stuff when he's watching it, but I'm thinking about it because it points you in that direction without telling you you must think this or this is what the whole thing's about. So if you pay attention and you know your stuff and you can go off and think about that stuff a lot more and it raises questions. It's like I recently I watched the pilot for Watchmen on HBO, and I'm not saying it's super deep, but like it's interesting. Like it shows that Tulsa race right at the start, and then to someone you might just think, oh, that was awful, but then you might just generally think about that theme in the show and think about more. I think it could be a lot deeper rather than hitting your head over it. But I got time for movies. Like one of my favorite movies is where's this? Yeah, I got a poster. Drive. That is not a deep movie at all, but I still really like it. Or maybe something like even her with Joaquin Phoenix as well. It's not particularly like it's deep in a way because it takes someone who's been in that sort of relationship to write something like that, and then if you've been in a relationship as well, you can understand it, and it's deep in that sense. But it's not like I'm pondering my existence after watching it. Like I think people talk about the Joker in that way, which is crazy. Red Leader says the Last Jedi is the best Star Wars because half people hate it. Validation. The thing is when people generally like something, I don't think it can be like one of the best movies of all time or something. For example, I like Rogue One a lot, the Star Wars, and I think the consensus is that's a really good movie. And I agree because it's got a lot of fan service. I like Star Wars, but yeah, but it's not like one of the best of all time. I think a lot of the best movies are always divisive when they come out. Like think of something like Blade Runner, which is obviously revered now, but critics hated it. It got panned by critics and it made like shit money at the box office. And obviously, like a few people at the time did like it, and then that's how it carried on to today. But at the time, people absolutely did not have time for it, but now it's proved to be like one of, I'd say on Twitter, it's one of the most accurate films about the future, which I'm going to make a video on it because it's Blade Runner month for next month. Evan, I think you'll find, not being condescending, if you've seen my video about how I voted Conservative, I think you'll find as you get older, you'll change a lot. And I know that sounds really condescending, but when you're younger, when I was younger, I thought I had it. Even when I was like a couple of years ago, you think you have it all figured out, and you're like, how does anyone ever see this different to me? Like, I used to be like some enlightened centrist, left-leaning centrist, and I was like, how could anyone be Marxist, for example? Like, why would anyone be that? That's ridiculous and stupid. I would call people the far left. I'd talk about political correctness and shit like that. And when I get older, I'm literally like, why the fuck did I ever think like that? And I'm actually cringing, thinking about the stuff I used to say like 3 years ago, and I'm nearly 24, so when I was like 2021. Cav is a hipster, whereas I have to admit terrible taste, but at least my terrible taste is also fun. Yeah, but kind of your terrible taste is not like actually terrible. It's just like cheesy shit from like some of the 2000s and stuff. But I think people who think the Joker is the best film of all time seriously have terrible taste. And I think the problem is people who watch the Joker are the same people who watch Marvel films who probably don't actually watch many films. So when they see a film that tries to say something, it's like, oh my god, this film was so deep and made me think. I can't believe like films can do this. But it's like because they've been watching like crap Marvel movies all the time. Yeah, but Joker, shit movie. No, I'm joking. Not for me, because everyone likes it, so I have to hate it. Yeah, apparently someone said to me he gets beaten up by Antifa or something because it's trying to make it seem like both sides. We should all sit down for a live stream of the movie. Yeah, when it comes out, when it comes out on streaming. Mac, are you actually getting mad about? Are you willing to die on the Joker hill? Am I actually really pissing you off? uh, people get people get really mad about criticism of the Joker. My little brother was getting really offended about me doing it. Like I was saying at the dinner table, I was just like, I was like, why the fuck would anyone care about Joker's mum? I was like, why do I want to see Joker's mum? I am good at annoying people. Yeah, but but the nurses are going to be like you guys are talking about Australian points based system. That's what we're going to do, and then the nurses can't come here because they don't earn enough. 30,000 is way too much to set the visa at. Like all the jobs I've been applying for, like 23, 24, and I have a master's degree and stuff. I'm not saying nurses have a degree as well, but nurses are paid shit money. All my communist friends really like the Joker. Yeah, I saw Peter Coffin was going wild about it. I actually thought he was joking. That's how passionate he was being about it. That's what why I was getting annoyed. Um, he kills three Wall Street predators and it causes the masses to protest anti-rich sentiment. Okay, well, also there's like Antifa stuff as well. Um, okay, Joker kills some CEOs because they attack him during one of his laughing fits, and that's the only time he fights billionaires or what. Yeah, but come on, Matt. You know Antifa beat the Joker up. Maybe it wasn't even. I haven't actually. I swear to God, I haven't read anything about the Joker. Like, swear on my life, I haven't read anything about it. The only thing, it's just I've been seeing all the discourse on Twitter, which has pissed me off. That's not. I haven't actually read like hot takes about the Joker. I've actually stayed away from it because I wanted to go in Cause one review I really like, I know hates it, but I didn't watch the review because I didn't want to be influenced. Like they really hated it, like 0 out of 10. The other people I watched gave it like 5, 6, 7, even though they didn't. They just thought it was a bad Scorsese movie, basically. Um, uh, One sec. Uh, Antelli's saying liberals are goofy, but we need them if nothing else is sheep. Yeah, exactly. So Michael saying how to screw up a national system and get it ready for privatisation, freeze or cut the spending and increase the responsibility and bureaucracy, and make it difficult but not impossible. That's what the Tories are doing now, and then they'll blame it on the migrants using it rather than what it is they're cutting all the money for it. So Anthony's saying, I think what you mean by deep is high concept, which essentially means a simple premise or an idea that has implications that last beyond the piece itself. Yeah, I guess when you boil it down, it can be simple stuff, but even some of it's more complex. And I think something why I like Blade Runner so much, especially the second one, is it just lets the visuals do the talking, and it really depends on what type of person. Not saying you have to be a deep person, but what your mindset is when you're going into the film. Like when you see it and you think about like the future or what, like Blade Runner doesn't. No, none of the Blade Runner films talk about climate change, but it's clearly part of it. But if you're not thinking about climate change, you're not gonna get it out of the film. Like when you see Los Angeles like having snow or having a massive seawall, or you hear like some really like unimportant dialogue that for example there's not any trees left on Earth anymore, which you don't actually think about it because it's not like a big thing, but I think it's show and not tell. I think is something I like a lot in films. Um, your favorite movie is Scooby Doo Two Monsters Unleashed. I saw that in the cinema. Is that when Scrappy is like that person, like in the suit? Rogue One was good and Last Jedi was trash. Yeah, I prefer Rogue One because I love Star Wars. I like Last Jedi enough, but it kind of like ruins Luke. And it's just, I think sometimes you've got to play into the fan service a bit more, and I think the character of Luke, what he was established to be in previous films, just doesn't match up to what he is. Even if he's a jaded old man, I also think sacrificing himself was just such a waste. You don't wait 30 years for a character to come back and then kill him in a completely stupid way. Like I would rather him gone out actually fighting Kylo Ren and the First Order rather than disappearing into the Force. I don't know, annoying. Rogue One was good because it took what I liked from the prequels and put the old trilogy on like sort of skin on it. Kenny makes a good point. Evan, think about how right you thought you were when you were an anarchist. I think that's a good point of view. Because there's nothing you can't just keep. You get to some points like now I doubt myself a lot more because I think about the last year and I've changed a lot of opinions just because I've been reading a lot more or watching or interacting with people on Twitter who have like a lot of different political beliefs than me. Oh, hey Eric, you're watching with your friend Caleb. That's good. Wait, I'll stream a bit more. Let me just sort out the lighting in this room quick. One sec. Oh, I'll be back. Alright, here we Sorry about that. All sorted. Oh, you all waited for me. Alright. So, I've been thinking more about how bad the Joker was. No, I'm joking. Annoying, I have to sit on my bed today. Alright. Done. What's a really deep film then? Bilbo, do you think the Joker is a deep film? What's the time? A really deep film. Well, because I said I like show and don't tell, I think deep is like even people think he's pretentious. I like Terrence Malick films. So The Thin Red Line is a war movie. If you're gonna deep, I think that's pretty deep. Just because of the way it's filmed, I think really makes you think about like war in general and just a lot of the problems and the situations. Just really putting yourself there. And just the points it raises on like the sort of humanity and warfare, I think is really interesting. Tree of Life is a super long one, but I think it's a good one. Just about life in general, and I think the best films for being deep are just things that are up for interpretation. I don't think there's much interpretation with a lot of movies that are meant to be deep, like The Joker, for example. I mean, like, how much interpretation is it? But again, I'm not saying my problem with The Joker is not that it's a bad movie. It's that it's just the dialogue around it is just annoying because it just seems like people just people haven't seen many movies think it's just something unique when it's not. Why does her and Antifa attack him? I don't know if they do. So I'm sorry I said Antifa in the movie. They basically portrayed Thomas Wayne as Donald Trump. Yeah, but even that's not too new. Lex Luthor in Batman vs Superman was like evil Mark Zuckerberg. I killed the Joker. One of my laugh bits. Yeah, but Evan, do you honestly think I've literally been talking for like nearly 3 hours? Do you honestly think I don't support I don't support the Leave campaign because Farage supports it? Do you honestly think that's my problem with it? Because one guy I don't like supports it, or do you think, or what I've literally been saying? Part of my job is literally writing about immigration all the time, and I see how crap it's going to be, and how it's going to actually exclude a lot of people we need in this country to work here. It's also what Farage, Johnson, Gove, and Leave represents is going to be super damaging to this country, and in my opinion, is the biggest fascist enabling movement that we've had since like Oswald Mosley and those guys. So yeah, that's what I'm against. I'm not against it because Farage bad. So look, Evan, if you vote Brexit Party, you're enabling fascism. That's my opinion. You're enabling the most mainstream fascist party in this country. You're voting for the furthest right party you can, because you know maybe one communist person in it. That is not what the party is. Every racist in the country and every fascist in the country is voting for the Brexit Party. That tells you everything you need. That's like with Donald Trump. You might get some weird people who vote for him, but every single racist, fascist person in England is voting for the Brexit Party. It's not even like a debate. That is what is going to happen. Eric's saying, I'm not a fan of the Joker, but my friends dig it. Bad Scorsese movie for sure. A lot of people walked out of the Joker. That's interesting. I don't know why. Maybe too violent. Lex Luthor film would be more relevant to today, and then looking at the neo-feudalists of the folks like Zuckerberg and Bezos. My friend said Joker, you throw him in jail. Lex Luthor, he's at Davos. Yeah, I guess that would be a better message, but the director seems like a bit of a piece of shit. Oh, Christy, the Sargon stuff. If you got time, just watch the first like 3 minutes of this video. Um, yeah, basically, I called him. I basically said he was on the verge of being a Holocaust denier, and he quote tweeted me, and loads of right wingers just jumped on me. But yeah, I definitely don't apologize for what I said. Um, so I guess the fair definition of deep to me would be something that gets you to think a lot once you're at the theatre or after the credits roll. I think it could just change it depending on like what people think. Like, I think Dunkirk, I think maybe Nolan movies are a bit basic, but Dunkirk really got me thinking, but not because of what was actually shown in the movie. Like, I did think about these people were younger than me and they fought in this like awful conflict. I think it's a great anti-war movie, Dunkirk, 'cause it's just like horrific, but it's not horrific in like the traditional way that's like super gory or super awful war scenes. It's just like the situations, but it leaves it up to your imagination. Like, you see a nurse going around handing them like jam and bread, and then 2 minutes later, a torpedo goes off. But you follow the perspective of one character, but then you're thinking in your head, oh shit, that nurse was in that boat, and she's drowning to death with all these soldiers. And then in your head, you're like, oh, when I think about World War Two, I don't think about nurses being killed on boats by like torpedoes and stuff or bombs. And I think not necessarily that Dunkirk has some massive political message, like a blatant or really overt political message, but I think some films like that you can think more into it and think. I think First Man does a good job as well. Like, it's not like this is so deep, you'll question the nature of your life. But then when you think about Neil Armstrong and how especially First Man is so good at showing you how basic technology was, and because it's such a well well shot film, but this gets the technology and the claustrophobia so well. It just makes you think, I can't believe people were doing this in the 60s. Absolutely mental, and it's sort of like inspiring in a way. Just think people do this. Lol, Cav, remember when I used to support Pete for 2020? Yeah, Evan, I'm not saying you will definitely think one day you were naive, but I, I'm coming from my own personal point of view as someone who thought they was like smarter than everyone and thought they'd worked it out. It's actually really hard to admit how wrong you were sometimes, but as you get older, I think you just change your opinions. I don't believe that you get more conservative when you get older, but I don't know, when you're just a young student, like I was like a year ago, or not even a year ago, when you start like entering the job world, it changes you a bit. It's like it makes you say fuck capitalism basically, but when you just think about stuff like Brexit, it sort of plays into it a bit more. They're killing old characters because the actors are getting old. Yeah, but Mark Hamill's going to be in the new one, so yeah. Kennedy's saying I doubt my ideology all the time. I'm constantly amending things with myself. I'm not sure I'll ever be 100% sure what tendency is right or good. Yeah, exactly. I always go with God. Psalms 420. Um, yeah, that's like attic. That's the door. um, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is the deepest. Inception, because everyone hates Inception. I don't think they do. That's super popular. People who say they didn't understand it are literally the dumbest people ever. It's like not it's so simple, but it's obviously like a big Hollywood blockbuster. It's not that, it's a tiny bit more complicated than the average one. Um, Dabception, yeah. Oh, look! It slowly rises. I've been practicing my dab all month. Getting ready for my birthday dab. Um, Dread is a deep movie. Dread was cool. Those movies make me a bit uncomfortable though, because it's like it makes the authoritarian people seem really cool. Like Dread going into that tower block and killing loads of people seems like awesome, but it's like a weird dystopia as well. I think a lot of dystopias can always have the potential to be quite deep. So that yeah, Antilles. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I was like, Jesse Eisenberg gave a more accurate performance as Mark Zuckerberg in Batman vs Superman than he did in The Social Network because he's playing Lex Luthor. Caleb wants to know if you could go on a desert island and bring one board game. What game would you choose? I never ever play board games, so none. I'd want to bring a video game, not a board game. I never play board games. I play like that Monopoly Snap game, but that's not a board game. Citron saying, I heard. Oh, Citron, it's been a long time. Haven't seen your comment in ages. I heard of you a while back from Cabos, back when I had conservative views. After watching you and some other leftist YouTubers, my worldviews have changed. Thank you. Oh, thanks. That's good to hear. Citron, thank you for saying that. Who else did you watch, and how old are you, if I can ask? Hey, this is random, but how's your head? My head's okay. See if I can get it up. Oh, no. It's stuck in my charger. Let's get it up here. So I got Vaseline on it, that's why it looks a bit greasy. But you can see I got a big scar coming there, and I have scars in my eyebrow. Nose is still broke, and I'm just leaving those stitches in for now. Generally feel okay. Just want to get the nose sorted and then I'll be good. Can't play football for now, which is annoying. And I haven't been exercising much, so I feel pretty shit, but yeah, been okay. Apparently studying fascism it turns out it's bad. Yeah, it's always bad. Sorry. Yeah, but some person you can't on what you're saying to Citron. You can't honestly think that's going to happen with Tory Brexit, can you? You think they're going to increase your wages? All you need to look at is Tories represent the rich. That's why I think it's not complicated for me. It's more binary that while the EU is obviously a capitalist state, I think because of the variety of the membership and the different sort of politics of every member nation, it creates a chance for a bit more diversity, not like racial diversity, but in terms of voices and what gets done. Whereas to me, in this country, it's just literally Tories are for the rich, Lib Dems are for the rich, Brexit Party are for the rich, pretending that they're not. But literally only one choice in this country, and half the Labour Party are pretty shit as well. In America, it's literally just every single person in politics for the rich, apart from a couple people. So I don't trust. That's why I love in Peaky Blinders, just like how much Tommy Shelby just says it like it is. It's just like the guy from the Times comes to him. He's like, "Yeah, you work for a fucking Tory paper. Like, why do I want to talk to you?" Um, King John, elaborate on this, please. I'm interested. You say Blade Runner 2049, a great critique of masculinity, and hearing what Villeneuve wanted originally was interesting. Tell me what you wanted originally. I want to know this. Um, His victory shown again. Yep. Farage was all for a second referendum when he was convinced Labour would lose by small. Yeah, exactly. The music video for Ghost of You by My Chemical Romance is better than Saving Private Ryan. I haven't seen it, but I'll just say it is, because I know it'll piss off Mac. Mac's a Joker and Saving Private Ryan fanboy. Oh, if anyone thinks The Shawshank Redemption is the best movie ever, you're an idiot. No, someone was having a go at me on Twitter saying my favourite movies are like really basic white male Redditor, but I disagree. I think basic white male Redditor is like The Shawshank Redemption, Saving Private Ryan, and what's another movie like, I don't know, Green Mile. Wait, Which one's Green Mile? Is Green Mile the execution one? What's the Eminem one? Eminem one's is it 8 Mile? I don't know. I don't watch either of them. What, Christy? What's Mudbound? I haven't heard of that. Oh, okay. That's interesting, King John. So you wanted Kay to be female and Joy to be male. What do you think? Do you think it works better the other way around because it's like more realistic in terms of the dystopia to be male dominated? Why didn't he do that? It would have been cool. Now Davin is finally dead. Davin will never die. Kennedy, why do deep movies suck? They're so good. They're the only movies I really have time for anymore, if I think it's going to be somewhat deep. Oh, okay, so in sci-fi there are many emotionless male AI characters, which plays into the idea that men are rational. Male Joy would have been interesting. Yeah, that would have been cool actually. Denise felt the audiences weren't ready. It would have been pretty crazy if they switched the actors around, like Ryan Gosling as the AI and Anna, is it Anna de Armas as Kay? Nah, Kennedy, I disagree. Horror movies are the only movies that pull off social commentary about sucking. Apparently, The Purge is quite good for some of this stuff, though. Board game, more like board game you're on. Yeah, I hate board games. Still having migraine issues. I honestly think my migraine stuff is linked to exercise because I felt like crap yesterday after I went for a run. Like my vision was really bad, but overall I've been feeling okay about the migraine stuff. Um, you shouldn't play in the NFL. uh, you've never changed my mind about anything. I can change your mind. I changed your mind about the Joker. It's worse than you imagined. He plays Zuckerberg so well and like a true villain. I think the social network is actually, now in light of how shitty Zuckerberg is, I think it's quite flattering for him. Because it makes him seem like a guy who is like a genius, and even though he screwed people over, it's because of his fame that he got and success that caused him to screw people over. Where in real life, he just seemed like a genuine, massive piece of shit. And when you watch the film, you think he didn't really. You think in your head he didn't really rip off those rich twins that say ripped him off. But when you think about it now, in light of everything's come out about him, you think he probably definitely did rip those people off. Like they probably did come up with the idea, and he just did it himself. Yeah, but those protests are generally anti-capitalist protests. I think the British ones aren't, annoyingly, because I think one thing Evan got right is a lot of these protests are done by middle class people, but I think a lot of these protests in like the Middle East and Chile are anti-capitalist protests. Evan would be a Ron Paul supporter. There's nothing worse than Rand Paul supporters. You'll bounce back in 20 years from now and laugh at the whole thing. I hope so. I'll probably be alright after a couple months, to be honest. Yeah, but Evan, Hitler gave an answer to the working class problem. He said the reason we lost the war because it was the Jews. The reason you ain't got great jobs is the Jews. The reason the economy crashed was the Jews. It's because people are fucking idiots. So simple, like it's like what you learn in secondary school, like when you're like 12. It's like simple solutions to complicated problems are always going to be popular because people don't have to think about them. Farage has the working class vote is because people are dumb. He gives an easy answer. That's the this I'm not saying that with disdain because I've made a video how it's not people's fault for being dumb or brainwashed by media propaganda, but at the same time, he's not got the working class vote because he's some sort of like genius. He's offered a great comprehensive plan of how to make the economy better. He's an ex-banker who's lived this most of his adult life on money from the EU because he's been an MEP. Yeah, too many leftists and Lord Trump's warmongering. The Tulsi left, let's call them. 007 movies are dope. Skyfall's good. Casino Royale's good. End. Spectre has some really cool scenes, but I think those two are the best movies. Skyfall and Casino Royale. The older ones I'm not really big on. Yeah, Stalinism is more like about authoritarianism, really. Stalin was a monster. I don't understand socialists who think the USSR or China are good examples of socialism. Like, Stalin was genuinely a fucking monster. And for all, what the Soviets did to end the Nazis, for all that the Socialists did to end the Nazis, the fact that Stalin started up purges against the Jews again just because of Israel is crazy. So basically, people don't know, Stalin used to support Israel when it first started, but then because it became way friendly with the West, he changed to helping the Palestinians and Arabs. And what happened is, basically in the USSR, he basically said most Jews were Israeli spies and Western spies, so they went and sent them in prison camps and gulags for being Jewish. No, some person, don't listen to Evan. A lot. He's become a tanky. Tankies are people who think the USSR and China are good examples of socialism, despite being awful places. Evan, I'm telling you as a fact, Stalin pushed this propaganda that all Jews in the USSR were basically Israeli spies, and he put loads of them into concentration camps or whatever, the Russian version, gulags. You might as well start telling me in a sec that the Cultural Revolution in China was a good thing, despite killing tens of millions of people. Evan, the thing with these things that you're talking about, if you want to make the argument that in some ways socialist economics helped make these countries superpowers, I'm not going to disagree with you. If you're going to talk about these countries somehow doing that while at the same time being caring about human rights and human life, they definitely did not. Mao was totally insane. Stalin was insanely paranoid, and he would just kill so many people. Like the yeah, okay, yeah, it's called, yeah. Tankies think they're good things, but they're awful. And China today is like, I know the US is bad and everything, but there's no comparison. China is turning into a like absolute monstrous country. They can both be bad at the same time, but China is awful. The USSR, if we're talking about Khrushchev USSR 1960s and 70s and talking about the early 80s, that's a different conversation. If we're talking about 1930s to 1950s Stalinist Russia, I will not concede that was a good place to live for anybody. Obviously, they were devastated by the war, but Stalin was an absolute nutcase. In terms of general economics, the USSR was a relatively good place to live in the 60s and 70s in terms of like access to food and work and money and stuff. That's, if you want to make that argument, then fine. The argument that like Stalinist Russia was somehow good to live, like even in the Americans, which is fairly sympathetic to the USSR, I'd say the TV show. Even in that, they play up at how totally insane the Stalinist era was. Like, they'd just be killing, like the Secret Service was just at war with each other, killing each other because it was like Stalin versus the rest of them. Evan, I don't know if you know how Stalin came to power. He literally killed every single person who used to be prominent in the Bolshevik party. Every person. Like, I remember this list. It's funny. It's like a whole. It's like through show trials. It's like a whole list of all these prominent Bolsheviks who led the revolution, and in various ways they all were killed, and it's done by Stalin because obviously Lenin said in his will, don't let Stalin become the leader of the USSR, because Trotsky didn't take him seriously. he manipulated his way into a position. So in 1928, Trotsky had to leave the USSR and Stalin became the chairman. Stalin would sign 1,800 death warrants every night. Yeah, but Evan, whether Stalin hated Jews or not, which I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but he did start a massive campaign against the Jews in the USSR. But they were Russians, that they were Israeli spies and Western spies. Yeah, some person he did. He changed Lenin's will, but Lenin did say that he didn't want Stalin to become the leader because he's a nutcase. Yeah, young Stalin was good looking. I wouldn't say. What are you talking about? Stalin invented the NHS now. Yeah, but the reason Lenin did that was because the Russian economy was absolutely in the toilet. Yeah, but it doesn't matter if Stalin said that. If you start a massive campaign where I've listened. The BBC did this really good thing. They interviewed. It's called BBC Witness. I've told people about it before. They interviewed this woman, and her and her mother were sent to separate camps, and they didn't see each other for like 20 years, and they're just for being Jewish. I'll put a link in the thing. So Stalin's campaign against Jews. So it's called. So here we go. Rootless cosmopolitan was a prerogative Soviet euphemism widely used during the Soviet anti-Semitic campaign of 1948 to 1953, which culminated in the exposure of the non-existent Doctors plot. The term rootless cosmopolitan referred mostly to Jewish intellectuals as an accusation of their lack of patriotism, lack of allegiance to the USSR. It began in 1946 when Stalin, in his speech in Moscow, attacked writers who were ethnic Jews. The expression was coined in the 19th century to describe Russians who lacked national character. Talking about how anti-fascist Jews grew a lot into the Soviet administration. There's also something, what's it, the Rudolph something in Czechoslovakia where they kick this guy out of the Communist Party because he's Jewish. They manipulate a whole campaign against him because of what Stalin was doing. It's directed by Stalin. Let me try and find what this is called. I did it at university. But just if you just type in Stalin campaign against the Jews, so much shit comes up. So I'll get another one. What's it called? Yeah, there's loads of books about it. So what's it called? The Rudolph's. Right, Czechoslovakia. Anti-Semitism. Trial of Rudolf Slansky. Slansky, there we go. Rudolf Slansky, not Slinsky. So let me read this one. What is going on with this new update to the Safari? Alright, so Slansky trial. Slansky trial was a show trial against the by the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia. He was accused of participating in a Trotsky Zionist conspiracy and convicted. He was hanged in Prague on December 3rd, 1952. And it just talks about Stalin's influence in the whole trial, basically trying to get rid of him. So yeah, Stalin was. It sounds like he's pretty anti-Semitic, and even if he wasn't, he saw Western spies literally in every Jewish person. So I know everything, Evan. Don't question me. um, no, Evan. Stalin was I think you haven't read enough about Stalin, or I think you're reading too many commie or tanky things. Stalin was a monster. Saddam Hussein was like a horrible. Evan, I'm telling you, I literally did this at university in terms of like when we learned about Czechoslovakia from a guy who literally lived in Czechoslovakia during the Cold War. Like he voluntarily went to live there in the 80s for like 5 years to write his like PhD. The Slansky trial, for example, he expelled this guy and said he was a Zionist when he wasn't, just because he fought all these. Stalin was not a good person. I don't know how hard that is to. If you just hear what he did to the Jews for one, if that's just the only bad thing he did, he's a bad person. Do you know what I mean? If all he did was purge Jews and send them to gulags just for being Jews because he thought they were Israeli spies, like I'm not one of those people who say because people died in famine, Stalin killed them. I'm not like disingenuous. I'm not going to say because millions died in famines in China that Mao directly killed them. I'm not like people who's like communism killed 1 billion people, but to really say that Stalin wasn't a complete awful nut job. The only good thing he did was fight World War II, but he made a pact with Hitler to start with and carved up Poland. What do you say to that? Why would a good person make a deal with Hitler to carve up Poland, and then it was the Nazis who actually broke the deal, not the Soviets? And the Soviets' own anti-Semitism against Jewish people, they used the partisans to fight for them, and then they treat them like absolute garbage. Evan, how did he help so many people? It's like, would you make the same argument against Mao? Even in China, they say Mao only did 2/3 good. They don't even say he was an overall good person. They say 2/3 good. I think you've just gone down a tanky rabbit hole. I think when you learn more about Stalin, I know you're thinking Western media is biased, but Stalin, like, objectively was an awful person. Just because he was leader of a so-called socialist country. Evan, I can't take you seriously, and I don't want to say I'm smarter than you, but I've studied this stuff so much, and like I'm not being funny, but Mao, when you read about what Mao does, you're like, I wish I could go back in time and kill this guy. And what Mao started out as is actually pretty cool. When you read about his the way he made the communist army treat the peasants and everything to get them on side, it's all good stuff. When you read about what he fucking did when he was the leader, the Cultural Revolution. All right, tell me he was good, right? Because he was losing his grip on the party, he made the youth of China form militias, go around the country and kill anyone they thought who were counter-revolutionaries. He'd make them force people to tell Mao before they when they woke up and before they went to bed. Tell Mao about all the counter-revolutionary thoughts they'd had. And tell Mao about their day. Everyone would inform on each other, and you'd just be massive, massive purge against everyone. He would destroy loads of Chinese history because it went against communist history. It was like revisionist history. Apparently, he also might have made a deal with the Japanese during the war so he didn't actually have to fight them. So I'm not being funny. I don't think you know enough about Mao or Stalin to say they're overall good. Like, oh yeah, like Lenin legalized abortion and then he criminalized it again. Doesn't mean Lenin was a great advocate for women's rights. I grant you that Soviets in general maybe a bit better for women in the workplace, but still not amazing or anything. No, the Cultural Revolution by design was meant to be out of control because Mao wanted to make people so scared of his power. It killed millions and millions of people. It was like batshit insane. And then what did he do when he got control again? He killed loads of his children because he didn't want them running around the country causing trouble anymore. Does that sound like a good person to you? literally uses children to go around kill millions in the country to get his power back, and then kills those same children because they're just, off their leash too much. And what Stalin's own imperialism in Asia and everything as well, in the 30s. Killed millions, but it's overall by rights people. No, just Evan's logic is very weird to me. No, Evan, what is wrong with you? You can literally read these documents. It's not I'm reading propaganda. I literally at university there's a thing online you can read. It's literally a massive archive of communications within the communist bloc. Like for example, you can read Mao talking to like a Polish ambassador about North Korea and stuff. It's like, or you can read stuff about Kim Il Sung talking, or Kim Jong Il talking about Saddam Hussein and stuff. It's really detailed, and it's not Western propaganda. He was mental, and when Mao was dying, he had like syphilis really bad. He was legit going mental. But yeah, literally, Evan, I'm concerned for you because you're literally, see, I'm being as fair as I can. Um, I'm being as fair as I can to you, saying I don't blame. I'm not like someone who's going to say famines in the Soviet Union mean Stalin directly killed them or anything, and a lot of people will do that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when Mao directly orders kids to go around killing people just for him and destroying China's ancient history, I don't think he's a good guy. And the Great Leap Forward, Evan, is this a good guy, right? Mao ordered the peasantry to melt down their tools so that China could sell it for steel, right? To meet their production targets on the 5-year plan. The steel was so bad they couldn't sell it, and then millions and millions of peasants died because they had to eat mud because they didn't have tools to farm anymore. Does that sound like a good guy? On top of the Cultural Revolution, on top of keeping threatening to nuke Taiwan like every day, and on top of propping up North Korea, sending millions of Chinese to die, fighting for the North Koreans, capturing British people, brainwashing them, torturing them really bad. But Mao wasn't overall a good person. There's no achievements he could have done that would have negated the evil he did. Like he was legit. The thing is, Evan, you're being naive just because he's. Do you know Mao said when he became the leader of China? He said, "I'm not going to. This is not going to be a dictatorship of the proletariat." He said, "I'm going to be the dictator of the proletariat. Literally, I'm going to be in charge, not the workers." How does that fit in with your Marxism? It doesn't sound very Marxist to me. These are authoritarian countries. What you're basically what you're doing now is like if Ben Shapiro started defending Assad and saying Assad is a good guy because he implemented neoliberal capitalism that caused the Syrian revolution or something, or like Assad was generally a good guy or Gaddafi was generally a good guy despite murdering they haven't murdered as many as Chinese authoritarianism like Mao. You're probably one of those. Mao did more harm than good. Yeah, but Diane Abbott is not the most bright person, is she? And stuff like that. Evan, I think when you're older, you'll seriously regret thinking like this. Like, if you're for real socialism, there's no way you can support the USSR. And Bernie Sanders, when he was in his way socialist days, would say this stuff. He's like, "Yeah, I'm socialist." Anderson Nicole was like, "I do not support the USSR." I don't know if you're just trolling me, but being a tanky is fucking stupid. Like, it's not like you're telling me how great Cuba and Yugoslavia is. You're telling me how great like two of the worst regimes of the last 200 years were. Like, yeah, Stalin and Mao are absolute monsters, and I think you need to do more research on them. Just because they're socialist doesn't negate the fact they were monsters, or technically socialist. I don't think they were socialists. Um, But yeah, anyone in the chat, please don't think Mao and Stalin were good people. But Evan, they killed so many people for no reason. They didn't need to. It's not like they needed to do it to get some great society. They literally killed so many people for no reason apart from to maintain their control of the party. Like, these guys are genocidal. Yeah, but Evan, that's not an argument. The USA is an awful country. The USA is one of the worst imperialist nations of all time. It doesn't mean Stalin's Russia and Mao's China were good. Like, what's the point? If you want to convince people you like socialism, why don't you use something more like less awful, like Vietnam or Cuba or anything like that? Look, Evan, if do you think capitalists are in? Well, I don't know. Probably would defend Donald Trump, but yeah, Evan, that's not an answer to the question. This is what I would say. I'd say Stalin and Mao could have achieved. If you're saying they have great achievements, they could have achieved all of it without the mental bloodshed that they did. The Cultural Revolution did not need to happen, right? The Great Leap Forward as a failure did not need to happen if Mao wasn't such an idiot. If you're telling people to melt down the tools for farming to sell for steel and they all starve to death, you're insane and you directly kill them. If you're trying to tell me people live on $2 a month or whatever a day in capitalist America, well, what you're saying, what Mao did was fine, then taking people's tools away and let them eat mud until they die. Stalin is bad in a different way. Just totally paranoid. The thing is, Evan, like George Orwell was a massive socialist. He absolutely hated Stalin. 1984 and Animal Farm are influenced by his hatred of Stalin, especially Animal Farm. And I don't know, Stalin was always a mental person. If isn't Lenin meant to be seen as like one of the great Marxists, and he hated Stalin. He said, "Don't let Stalin become leader of the USSR." Anyway, you supported Mayor Pete mere months ago, Evan, so I'm sure you'll change again to not supporting fucking Stalin and Mao. Next, you'll be telling me Pol Pot is good. Or next, you'll be telling me Maoists are good and stuff as well. George Orwell ratted out the commies. Who did he rat out? Did he rat out Stalinists? I think Animal Farm, even though it's basic, is a fairly good critique of Stalin. But yeah, I'll check out that article. Yeah, Michael, I agree with that. But well, I just think it's authoritarianism, left or right authoritarianism doesn't really matter. Like if China makes it or America makes it, what difference does it make if one was socialist and one was capitalist when they both, a lot of it is similar. It's like, they're not that they're that similar in ideology, but the surveillance state of the Nazis and the surveillance state of Stalin aren't too dissimilar in a lot of ways. Informing people, listening in all the time, making people betray each other, obviously rounding up Jews. Obviously the Nazis did it way more, but the Soviets were doing it as well. Alright, Night Fuzz. Yeah, but there would be a KGB without the CIA. There was so much. They already had their secret organizations before. The British Empire had like their own version of the MI6 and MI5, didn't they? So it's not like a new concept. Who else is secret agent? Like spies and secret agents. That's an old concept. KGB would definitely exist without the CIA. Evan, you're essentially apologizing for a genocidal maniac. I don't care that he was socialist. You know, would you like capitalists to start apologizing for Hitler and saying, oh, yeah, Hitler was bad, but he rebuilt Germany's economy, and look at their, industry today, which is on the back of like some of the Nazi stuff. Like, look at all the cars and all the great manufacturing the Nazis helped create and nurture. So yeah, Hitler was a bit of a monster, but necessary evil for making Germany a good capitalist country. Would you accept anyone making that argument? Because that is a similar argument you're making. Because why does Stalin need to kill Jews? Why does he have to throw them in gulags? Why does he have to purge all these people? Why does he have to slaughter Ukrainians? But here's the thing, right? If say let's say I would grant you Stalin made the USSR a superpower, right? That doesn't negate the fact he was a monster. It doesn't negate the fact he could have done these things without killing all these people, and that's the criticism right there. The same way, are you going to start saying the British Empire made Britain the country it is today? It made Britain powerful. Or let's say that if the British Empire didn't exist, Britain would have lost World War II. Would you say then the British Empire was a necessary evil? The British, it was worth it for them to kill millions and millions of people over hundreds of years, completely destroy these countries, create some of the worst problems in the world in terms of Pakistan and India and Israel and Palestine, and you'd think that is worth it because they won World War II or World War I or something. Yeah, but Evan, you could make the argument he did rebuild the economy because of what Germany was like during 1929, the recession. People do make that argument, and then obviously it's bullshit because he started the worst war of all time and completely decimated the whole country, killed, got 9-10 million of his own people killed. So yeah, but Stalin was. Tell me how many workers own the means of production in. That's another thing. If you're socialist, why are you supportive of an authoritarian state? Did the workers really have much say in the USSR? They didn't. You can make an argument on a local level, maybe they did, but the Stalin controlled everything. No one could challenge Stalin. How is that a socialist utopia or even on the way to communism? One guy controlling everything, like absolute power. Same with Mao in the end as well. Yeah, but why are you defending him? He killed loads of people. He wasn't a good socialist either. Just because he made the USSR powerful and the USSR was just an imperialist state like any other country in the world, what do you think? The whole of Eastern Europe became colonies for the USSR essentially, and I don't know how. So what is the positives? Even if you're saying, yeah, Stalin was good for making the USSR powerful, what did the USSR do? Just colonize the whole of Eastern Europe and keep all these countries who wanted independence under their thumb. Look at all the new countries that sprung up after the USSR was gone. But what achievements did it have if it creates an authoritarian dictatorship that spreads over the whole of Eastern Europe? It makes countries like look at Czechoslovakia. It didn't want authoritarian style like Soviet style rule crushed straight away. Look at the Hungarians who the Czechs voted for socialism. They voted for the communists. They didn't even. They're one of the only countries in that area who didn't get occupied by the Soviets before they did. They did it on their own, and look what the Soviets made them do. Yeah, but Evan, it's funny that the only country that misses the USSR is Russia. But I think that tells you everything about it. There's a reason pretty much everyone you speak to who's from ex-Soviet countries hates the Soviets. There's why you can never really have a debate with a lot of these people about socialism, because they just associate it with authoritarian Soviet rule. So some person says, I usually disagree with Cav on a fair few things, but he's always 100% accurate in his history. Oh, thanks, man. I usually lurk in Cav's streams, play his videos to get left-wing view on issues I care about. Okay, cool. um, everyone believes they're mostly correct in their own beliefs. Not everyone. There's some things I'm super strong on, but like if we were debating like in-depth economics, I would not be great at that. Like in terms of like super deep. Like on a general level, I'm decent at it, but if we're like getting really into it, I wouldn't be great. Orwell sold up Chaplin as a commie because he said that he was Jewish. When did Chaplin die? Is it the 50s? What's wrong with Yugoslavia straying away from the Warsaw Pact? Why would you want... You're criticizing... You're saying you went to an anti-NATO demonstration. They don't want to do the bidding of the USSR. They don't have to... We shouldn't have to. And the Yugoslavia is one of the only countries that didn't. Yeah, but Tito actually was actually wanting to help his country, rather all the other leaders of the commie countries just wanted to were doing the USSR's bidding. They literally stuck them in. The Russians actually went in and just put the local communists into power, and they just did everything Stalin said. I don't know why you want to why Stalin is the hill you want to die on. If you want to argue that the USSR was good for Russia or something, it's a much like more nuanced debate. Or the USSR helped people in general. There's a much more nuanced debate. But you're literally saying Stalin was a good person when it's just so much information. He was just totally paranoid. And then Christie's saying, yeah, psychotic leaders always use a title like democratic and national socialist when they're not democratic or socialist. Well, you might as well be arguing with me that if you're arguing with Mao is good, you might as well be arguing with me that Kim Jong Il and everyone like that are good as well, or Pol Pot is good. It's the same thing to me. Yeah, but Evan, is land reform, employment, housing, and food? Does that go hand in hand with purging the Jews and killing all your political enemies, even if they're not actually your political enemies? They're just people you think might challenge your power. Yeah, but the People's Republic of Korea, they're not against imperialism. They're literally some cult monarchy. It's not even socialist at all. Korean's Workers' Party, maybe back in the day, was not so bad. Well, it was bad, but I mean, like, it wasn't not the same level as today. Like Kim Il Sung, if you read a lot of his transcripts, he seems fairly reasonable. Compared to Mao, definitely he seems reasonable, but um, yeah, anti-imperialism. You could say like, just if Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein are anti-imperialism, doesn't make them good people or people you should support. So, but yeah, yeah, but right. So rightfully paranoid is thinking literally every Jew in the USSR is a spy for Israel. it's not Western propaganda. There's just so much evidence Stalin was not, even if he wasn't anti-Semite, he was crazy. And just saying because an outlet is something you don't like, it's Western propaganda, isn't like enough. Because what are you reading? You're reading like hardline, tanky blogs and stuff. And what do you think their agenda is? Night, Brantley. Thanks for joining us. So, you can read so much about Stalin's purge of the Jews. Yeah, I'll send you. I'll link something good because you can't dispute it because it's a person who was actually sent to one of these camps. Jew, Stalin, Russia. Alright, so in the 1930s, is this the one I read? The 1930s, the USSR created a Jewish region in Serbia and Siberia. I don't know if that's the exact thing I'm looking for. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the two kids who were sent there. Right. BBC Witness, anti-Semitism, Russia. I listened to it like 3 years ago. The police case, no, that was a different one. But Russia's always been super anti-Semitic. Just because the Bolsheviks had a lot of Jews and it doesn't really change that. I need to find this another time. I can't find this exact one. I listened to it too many years ago. Witness is a good thing to listen to, though, because it's just interviews of people who were there. Alright, I'm going to end this in a second. Let me answer the last couple ones. Yeah, there's no reason to lock up Jews in camps. How do you have this energy to the discourse so late? Because trolls are nocturnal. Yeah, but by your logic, do we say Stalin was banned because he made a deal with Hitler? And what I find funny is that the Allies actually wanted to go war with the USSR as well because they did deal with Hitler. Yeah, Russia is so anti-Semitic. It's part of why Lenin thought the revolution needed to start in Germany and not Russia. Yeah, exactly. The deal was tactically brilliant for selling out the Polish people. So it was tactically brilliant for letting the Nazis create like Auschwitz and create all the concentration camps in Poland and not fighting to save Poland. That's what it was great for. And then the Polish people then get to live under 6 years of Nazism, and then how many years? Like 45 years of Soviet rule, authoritarian rule. Sounds great. So Stalin just great for Slav unity, allowing the Nazis to own a whole part of a Slav country and just commit genocide to the Jews there. But anyway, yeah, Night Kennedy. Yeah, I know the Allies wanted the Soviets and Nazis to destroy each other. It doesn't mean the Nazis were some great, and if you're not even standing up for people they're meant to have some solidarity with, the Slavs. Yeah, night, Michael. Yeah, I guess I'll go now too. It's 4:44, 4:41. We'll debate this again, but I seriously think you should reconsider being an apologist for Stalin and Mao. Yeah, right, and everyone, yeah, have a good week. We'll try and continue everything like this later at 5 a.m. I fell asleep. I was meant to stream at 12, but I accidentally fell asleep for 2 hours because I was really tired. But yeah, I got to go up. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll continue this stuff next week. Yeah, I hope everyone has a good week. I'll see what I'm going to upload this week. I don't really know at the moment. And yeah, thank you for 7K. Let's hopefully it stays on 7K. And yeah, so yeah, thank you everyone. Have a good evening and have a good week. Oh yeah, fuck